Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Hidden Hockey Podcast. It's your boy, Matt Gordon. Just going on here and going to be doing a live stream tonight for the 2026 QMJHL draft for round one. For the stream itself, it's on FenPlast and it's also on Flow Hockey. I'm not going to have the feed on today. I'm just going to follow through Elite Prospects or maybe the QMJHL site. Figuring that out right now. And then I'll get into a little bit beforehand since we got some time. I'll do a bit of an NHL mock draft, just kind of go through some different picks and situations that I think teams will look at going into the NHL draft going on in a few weeks. And we'll be able to talk more about some different prospects, where I think they're going to go, some potential trade candidates, different things like that might happen on the draft floor and within day 1 and 2 of the draft. So we'll get pumped. We'll get started here. And, if you have any questions, obviously feel free to leave them off to the side. I look forward to having, more discussions with you guys as the stream goes on tonight. So we will get going here. Let me I'm going to pull up Tankathon real quick and pull up their draft order. I'll go ahead and share the screen here and we can talk through some different things. As always, obviously, leave your comments off to the side. If you're new to the channel, welcome. Really appreciate those that jump on and are new. Obviously, comments are encouraged. There's plenty of people that always comment on a pretty regular basis. And if not, you can watch them recording and jump in when you need to. But really appreciate those that are on and continue to be on and continue to support the channel. We're growing this thing as much as we can. We'd like to get to about 500 subscribers by the end of June would be tremendous. I'm going to try and get more clips up as well of some previous videos that I've done, as well as maybe some new content. Mickey had the idea for top 10 scouting staffs. I'm actually thinking about working on that later this week. And maybe having a video out to talk about some of the best scouts that are in the game, what teams are doing it well, what teams aren't, and kind of go from there. But anyway, enough about me. Let's get to the draft coverage. I will go ahead and share my screen, and we can kind of talk through what I think could happen in the 26 NHL draft for right now before we go ahead and talk with the QMJHL draft. John Neal says, yo. Hey, John, what's going on, bud? Glad to see you back on here, and feel free to put your comments in like John did. So we'll keep rolling here. So number one, obviously everybody's talking about Toronto, new GM and John Chaika. It should be really an interesting summer to watch. Right now, obviously the NHL draft combine is going on right now. A lot of physical testing will be going on tomorrow morning. Some teams have already done some interviews, had some dinners with some guys. Haven't been fully up to date on those, but I know a few people have, obviously it's part of the process. So there will be more coming out in the next coming days, I'm sure. But obviously with Toronto, you're looking at right now the presumptive number one and the guy who's never left my number one list. I do think Gavin McKenna is the selection here for Toronto. Is there a chance maybe they look at a guy like Stenberg? I think there is. I don't know that they'll go with one of the defensemen here at number one overall. I think McKenna and Stenberg's talent are just too above what the needs are for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And I don't think picking one of those guys at one would be a good use of asset value. McKenna to me is a guy who he looks like he could be a 100-point scorer eventually in the National Hockey League. He's got a Kucherov-esque, Patrick Kane-esque like ability to play make. He's got the ability to really understand the offense at a granular level. He's able to slow pace down and really make really advanced feeds at, either high speed, low speed, whatever pace he wants it at, he controls it. Very much a wizard with the puck. Clearly a guy who's going to do well on the power play in the NHL. I think, pairing him with a guy like Austin Matthews would be an absolute godsend for Matthews. Might be a situation that helps to resurrect his career. Even more so than what it already has. I think with a guy like McKenna on his wing, there's definitely, perennial 50-goal upside with Matthews and that, with that kind of playmaker on his wing. And I just think that's too much to pass up for Toronto. I don't know that there is anything that they could get out of this draft other than a guy that would be a perfect setup guy for for Austin Matthews. And to me, and obviously he's, Chaika is driven to the Yukon. He's, the rumors are out there that he's going and visiting him pretty regularly. It's not surprising in the slightest. This is pretty much put it down, put some money on it. Gavin McKenna will be your number 1 overall pick. Now we go to 2, and obviously this is where the intrigue starts, right? So with 2, there's a lot of different options here. A lot of people think that Chase Reed might be the selection here. Other people think that they might go and take Stenberg. Does a guy like, Keaton Verhoff slip in here at 2? In my view, what do I think San Jose does? Honestly, I think San Jose could trade this pick. I really don't know that they're going to want to go and get another forward. I think they got plenty there with, Celebrini and Smith and, and Will Eklund, and, they've got the offense. I think that's, not going to be a super big issue. And I don't think they're afraid to make the selection. I think they'll make any selection they want to. But there might be some supreme value here, especially with the advent of a guy like Dylan Larkin entering the trade circles. There's a Robert Thomas move, does a Jordan Kyrou move, does Jason Robertson move. There seems to be a real intrigue throughout this draft of some potential moves that could or could not happen. And I do think San Jose will look to maybe make those moves in some way, shape, or form and really shake up this draft. If you had to, if you had to make a selection here, I do think that the selection goes to, a guy like Keaton Verhoff. I don't know that they go forward. I think that will probably be Keaton Verhoff there at 2. Chase Reed has an outside shot at being 2 as well. I personally wouldn't be picking either one at 2. I think I would probably go Stenberg myself. But I just think there's a ton of different options for San Jose. To me, it seems the most likely that they would go and trade, but I've never felt as strongly about a team trading like I do San Jose trading out of that 2nd overall. I think there's a real chance of that happening. And then, 3 here, should the trade happen? I mean, if that does happen and somebody goes up and takes, a guy like Verhoff or Stenberg, one of those 2 would probably slot in here at 3. I would be personally bullish on Viggo Bjork here at 3. I think he fits in really well with the Sedin mindset. And obviously the Sedins have seen guys like, Viggo Bjork really be successful in a lot of different ways. And, to me, I don't think it's crazy to suggest Viggo Bjork here with Vancouver at 3. Is my lean that way? I would say no. I think if they're, their best case scenario is that San Jose decides they take one of the defensemen and then Stenberg falls to them at 3 and they ultimately get a really good hockey player. I don't think Stenberg falls lower than 3. I think that's pretty much he's going to be in one of these 3 slots. I'm inclined to think too that, they may go defenseman, but I don't know to what degree they like, certain guys. It just depends on, whether they think a Reed is the top defenseman, whether they think Verhoff is, they're comfortable taking him here at 3. There's a lot of decisions here for Vancouver, but I do think in their heart of hearts, I think they would like Stenberg to fall to 3 here. I think that's going to be where they want their most bang for their buck. But, if I were them, I would be considering if guys like Verhoff and Stenberg are off the board, I think you got to go either Chase Reed or you got to go Viggo Bjork. And I know a lot of people think 3 for Bjork is a little bit too rich for their blood, but you're getting a kid who's a can't miss talent. To me, he's the 2nd best talent behind McKenna. I would even put him over Stenberg. I just think Stenberg translates a lot better to the National Hockey League, and I think there's some inherent risk with Viggo Bjork, even though he does mitigate that risk immensely well. I just think drafting philosophy will not allow them to kind of look at that in that scope. Number 4 here, this will probably be where the start of the defenseman runs. And at this point, I think Verhoff might be, a potential selection here. You could look at a guy like Chase Reed in this selection as well. I think that wouldn't be the craziest thing in the world. I mean, is this where, some other guys open up? Does, a guy like Caleb Malhotra come into the consideration here? That's a possibility. I don't know that I agree with that possibility, but I don't think it's the craziest thing in the world to think that, some team might like Caleb Malhotra in the top 5. I'm not one of them, but I I could see where people think that, and I think there's a largely growing dynamic in that way to where he'll be in the top 5. But it really just depends on what you think of the situation there in Chicago. Do you need a guy who's another center? You've already got you got Frank Nazar, you've got Connor Bedard, you've got these Oliver Moore, you've got really good talents there. Do you want to supplement that with more offense, or do you want to solidify that defense more? You've lost guys. Korchinski hasn't developed the way they would like. Levshinov, I think, has maybe been given a little too much unfair expectation. I think he, to me, he will be a solid top 4 for a long time for them in Chicago, but I think they're expecting him to be a 1. And, he's got the capability of being a 1, but he's still really young, still has a lot of development time. You have to consider all those situations when you're thinking of development with these defensemen. And a lot of these guys like Verhoff, Reed, Corrales, Lynn, all these guys, like even, Smeets, all these guys are guys that should not be playing in the NHL day one. None of these guys are that kind of talent. They're not a Landon DuPont who will step into the National Hockey League right after NCAA hockey. Like it won't happen. They're very good players. I wouldn't start any of them day one. And to me, if you're picking in the top 3, I don't know that you go defenseman for that reason. But you get a good player here, and I think 4 is when the defenseman will start to open up in the draft. And then we go to 5 here. New York's got some interesting selections as well. They've definitely gone a lot more forward heavy in the last 10 years. You look at guys like Capo Caco, Lafreniere, Will Cooley. They've gone and gotten a lot of really high picks and gone mostly forward. But I do think they're going to go defenseman here. I think this is where, the likes of a guy like, the Smeets go here. I wouldn't agree with it necessarily that he would go here, but I think a team that is really bullish on him would really like him. And I think New York likes their rough and tumble guys. I don't think Smeets is an NHL ready guy right now. I think it'd be a mistake to rush him next year. I don't even know that he's necessarily a guy you'd put in 2 years. I think Smeets is a guy who's got a lot of work still. Really good skater. He's clearly an NHL skater. That's not the issue. I think the decision-making still has to be really tailored down. I think his stick work is very good, but he's still, it's a different pace in the National Hockey League, and it's not something that you can just jump into and acclimate to, or at least a lot of guys can't. And I don't think Smeets is of that ilk where he can just jump into the National Hockey League right away. And you shouldn't expect him to jump into the National Hockey League right away. But I do think New York probably leans defenseman here. They'll probably go with the likes of a guy like Albert Smeets. And not that I necessarily agree with it, but I do think that's a real possibility. Calgary now at 6. This is where things open up and get interesting. Like, to me, there's 2 guys that to me scream Calgary Flame. Viggo Bjork could go here at 6, and I think it would be an excellent value pick. The other pick that I think would make a lot of sense is Carson Corrales here. I think both guys would be perfect culture fits in Calgary. Corrales has, been in the, Alberta and BC area for a long time. He's, a guy who I think has really shown very well in the back half of the year. He struggles offensively at times, but he's a guy who I think translates really well in the National Hockey League, and in the very least, he's a middle six. He's not a middle six. Sorry, he's like a middle pairing guy. I think you're going to want him eventually as maybe being a guy to foil Zane Parekh. To me, it's a natural fit there for Calgary. I think it makes all the sense in the world for them to consider him here. But I do like Viggo Bjork here as well. And depending on the defenseman available, maybe a Keaton Verhoff falls in this situation too. I think they would be very happy with him here at 6. It just really depends on the thought process there and where you can see guys going. At that point here now, we're going to be looking here at 7. Seattle here has a lot of things that could open up to them potentially. Now, where does this go from here for me? I think, you look at a guy like, if Reed's off the board, if Verhoff's off the board, you're looking for a defenseman in some way, shape, or form. Does a guy like Daxton Rudolph jump into the radar here? I think there's a significant possibility of that. Lynn, I don't think will go top 10, even though I believe he should. I just think the teams are a little leery of that. to me, Daxton Rudolph seems to be the next natural fit if you're going defenseman here. And even at 7, I think it's a little high for Rudolph, but I do see this being the first start of where a guy could go here. But I would be going forward. I could see the likes of a guy like, does a Malhotra fall down here to 7? I would start looking at a guy like Elton Hermanson in this range. I think Elton Hermanson is a guy who's going to sneak into the top 10. Would be a natural fit for them in Seattle. They really like their 200-foot players. You can look at a guy like Shane Wright. You can look at Matt Beniers. Both guys that really show good 200-foot play. Obviously, you lost a guy like, Ron Francis went and obviously left the organization. But I do think that prevailing 200-foot guy still fits and is kind of the identity in Seattle for the moment. Unless things change, but that seems to be the next step there. So to me, I think a guy like, Malhotra might fit. A guy like, Elton Hermanson might be a good selection here. It just depends on what's available and who you want. But those seem to be the next kind of fits for me in terms of where I think things could go. And I know a lot of people are like, wow, that's really high for Elton Hermanson. I think the kid's just as capable. I think if he would have played in the SHL, he probably would have gotten the same notoriety that Stenberg and Bjork have. He's right below them, in my opinion. Then you look at 8 here. Winnipeg really likes their high-end skill. They've gone with guys like Colby Barlow in the past. They've gone with, Nick Ehlers, variety of different players here. I think they're probably going to look to get a little bigger. And this is where I could see a guy like, Oscar Hemming or Ethan Belchetz might fall into this vein here for Winnipeg. I wouldn't mind either selection for Winnipeg. I think Belchetz fits more of what Winnipeg wants. There's some real intrigue in terms of what he brings to the table offensively, and I think there's still more to give. He's going to a really good program at Michigan State next year. I would expect him to be a very good fit for Winnipeg. And then to me, Oscar Hemming fits in super well with Winnipeg. They like the big rangy guy. I look at him where Scheifele was a very similar profile coming into his draft year. A bigger kid who is still learning his physical gifts, but has some real intrigue, some real skill. Didn't get the viewings and the notoriety he probably deserved, and I feel that way about Hemming. Hemming obviously kind of created his own situation in some way, shape, or form, but in the same token, he's still a really high-end elite talent. I think there's a real possibility here for a guy like Hemming or Belchetz to slide in here at 8. We can go now to the next here, Florida now. Does Florida go here? And, they're going to probably go and take a kid who's a pretty, smart player, 200-foot guy. I think I could see where a guy like Tynan Lawrence fits in here for Florida. I really think that, they would like a guy like him in this spot. Another guy who I think could get some consideration for Florida here if he falls would be Viggo Bjork. Would be such a Florida pick. He would be such a good fit for them in Florida. I don't know that he'll fall that low. He shouldn't fall that low. But if he does, you run to the board and you slam that pick in. I do think, though, that he will be off the board, and I do think that next vertical or that next natural step is to go for a guy like Tynan Lawrence, especially if you like the way he produced later on in his NCAA year. He did struggle a little bit in the NCAAs, but I thought towards the end of the season, he kind of came together back into his game that, we were used to seeing out of him in the USHL. To me, Tynan's got some top 10 flashes. I'm inclined to pick him probably 12 to 16 in my view. I think that's more along the lines where he fits amongst this class. But, you're getting a really good player in Tynan Lawrence. I think he's been, in too many different ways, he's been shown too high and too low. And I think there's a real middle spot. And this is kind of where the start of that middle spot is for me in terms of where I think guys could see his actual value. And then go to 10 here. Obviously, Nashville's making a lot of changes. They probably will go if there's still a defenseman listed here. I think, a guy like Daxton Rudolph would make a lot of sense here. Do you start to look at a guy like, does Belchetz fall here? I think Belchetz would be a massive, massive look for for Nashville. Makes a ton of sense for them to make that selection there. It's really going to depend on where different fits are, where things go. But maybe I'll stop at the top 10. Obviously, some guys, there's obviously other selections here. We can talk more about that if you guys want. But I do want to open it up to questions and different things, just to get an idea of where you guys are at with not only NHL draft stuff, but we can talk more about the QMJHL draft today too. I might go ahead and do a quick share of my top 8. So there's my top 8 there in terms of where I think guys are. To me, obviously a guy like Jake McKinnon's been a guy who's been really highly thought of. Some people even have him at 1. I don't necessarily agree with that myself. I think McKinnon's a guy who should be in the first round. Obviously, I think he's a bona fide talent, but I can't ignore what Julian Bergeron's done throughout the year. He's been an absolute force all year. Has been, to me, one of the best scorers in the midget under 18 level in Quebec. I can't go off of what I've seen in my viewings, and every time I've seen a really explosive player, a guy who to me is the best player available, and I can't ignore that, and I had to put him here at 1. Number 2 for me is Pierre-Alexandre Lemieux. This is a kid who, obviously the frame he's got, but I really like the skills here. I think he's, he brings a really nice size skill package. The skating is actually really good for a kid, that's a bigger framed guy. Should he grow into 6'6" and, maybe 200 pounds, I think there's a really bona fide player here. I think overall, if he even stays at where he's currently at, I think there's a really good QMJHL player here. And I do think he'll rise in the draft, or should rise in the draft, in my view. Some other guys here, Max Bryan to me is one of the most underrated guys in this class. I think just what he's done at the the U18 level in Nova Scotia, I think is something you can't ignore. I think he's, to me, been the dominant player there for a couple years now, and showed well in the QMJHL Cup as well. That was kind of his litmus test to allow himself to find his game more. And to me, Max Bryan he should be a top 5 selection at a minimum, in my view. I think if he would have been in like the CSSHL or been in a higher visibility program, let's say, I think you're looking at him as a top 5 selection, and he should be there. I think he's a really good talent. I think he's a very interesting player to watch. And I think there's just a lot to like here. Thomas Boisvert, another guy who played well at the U15 level for Mount St. Charles, was a clear impact player. Played alongside Zach Charbonneau as well for a little bit. And obviously I got Charbonneau there at 6. But these are guys that all basically everybody from 8 up, in my view, is going to be a first round player, or should be a first round player in terms of talent. But yeah, with Boisvert, you get a little bit more explosive. You get a little bit more elusive ability. Might be a guy who takes a little bit longer to find his offense in the QMJHL level. Might play a couple years before he really finds his overall upside in the Q. And then obviously you look at a guy like Zach Charbonneau here, and I'll talk about Borsalino in a minute. But Zach Charbonneau, should he decide to go the QMJHL route, or he decides to stay in Muskegon, this is a kid who I think would be an impact player in the QMJHL. I had him actually at 1 to start the year, but given that he's committed to the USHL, it seems like he's pretty steadfast in staying at that commitment. So I think he had to drop just because of that reason. But of the 2010s, I think he is the most gifted of this group. I think, Zach Charbonneau and Bergeron, to me, are the class above the rest of these guys. But there's some real bona fide talent here as well. And then obviously Borsalino is a guy who really impressed me a lot in watching him. I came away every time I'd watch a Lions game, and I thought, this is a kid who every time I watch him impresses me. And I couldn't ignore how good of a player he was. And to me, he's a bona fide first round talent in this grouping. I will say this 2010 class to me for the Q is a little bit weaker than I'm used to seeing. I think it's a good, I think that the high end class is pretty good, but the depth is not there. I'm very shocked by that. I think there's going to be some second and third round picks that, might not make the league. ever. I just think there's just not a strong core group of players out of this birth year for whatever reason. There's just not that grouping, and a lot of them that are really good actually ended up going to the USHL or going to the program. So it'll be curious to see what happens here. There might be some selections. There's a guy like Logan Cotter end up going higher than what I would personally have him at. I think, Cotter for me was a top 5 talent out of this grouping. But once he committed to the USHL and signed his tender, to me, it provided an interesting dynamic in terms of, is he playing it to find his QMJHL team, or is he committed to the USHL? That's going to be a really interesting dynamic to watch with a lot of these guys. Especially Charbonneau. Charbonneau might decide to maybe make the bolted move over to Quebec, should he find a team he likes. So, there's some intrigue in terms of that dynamic as well. But yeah, Borsellino is a hell of a player. Royer and Norris, I think, they've had moments where they've actually disappointed me this year, but overall, I really like their games. And I think there's some real good talent out of those guys. Those are the guys I felt most comfortable talking about. Another guy that I don't have right here, he's a little bit lower in my rank, but Emil Given, a little bit of a smaller guy, 5'7", 140 pounds. Came away watching him and really liking his overall game too. A guy like Carter Felt might be a guy who does really well, and he's one of the higher end top Americans along with Samuel Lee. Those are the guys I think to watch in tonight's draft, which is going to start in 20 minutes here. I will share the live. I won't have like a Flow Hockey live feed or anything like that, but we'll talk through some of the picks as they come along. But yeah, if you're looking to watch live, it will be listed out on Flow Hockey, and it will also be on FenPlast. Both of those options. One is a paid option, and then obviously the other one is, I think FenPlast is free if I remember correctly, but I have to double check that. So we got into a little bit there. We'll go ahead here. I'm going to go to some Q&A. We'll go ahead and remove here. We'll just talk back and forth. Dane says, who are your top 10 2010s in North America? North America-wise, I mean, you got to do 1-2 would be Schultz and Pugh. Maddox Schultz, to me, I think is one of the best, players in this birth year, bar none. I think he will be in that top 3 for 2028. Pugh as well. I think Pugh is just a step below him, but not by much. There's a really good player there as well, especially with a lot of rawness still to his game. Still really developing at a rapid rate, and I think both of them are going to do really well in Regina this next year. And they're going to be probably the team to watch in the Western Hockey League in terms of draft kind of capital and future talent style players. So I would say 1-2, those guys are in my consideration. I think Charbonneau and Bergeron are in my top 10 in some way, shape, or form. Offhand, I can't think of like where I'd place them right now. Let me pull off to the side here and let me look at something just to compare to where my notes were for both players. But to me, it's the 2010s birth year overall is a pretty good group. Sorry, I'm going to go ahead and pull up here the 2010s and just look at my board real quick. Just make sure I don't miss anybody. I'm not going to show my board, but we'll go through some guys. But yeah, Schultz and Pugh are my 1 and 2. Reed Nichols is a guy who would be pretty high for me. I think he would probably be my 3. I really like his game a lot. I think he's a really translatable player. Does a lot of really good things. Obviously he's not his brother. His brother is next level talented, but he's a really good hockey player there nonetheless. Defensively, I mean, 2 guys that I think are really good defensemen, Drew Daly and Cruz Jim. Both guys that are really, really high-end thinkers of the game, really high offensive inclined guys. I could see both of them doing really well. Obviously, Cruz Jim is going to play in the Western Hockey League next year, and Drew Daly is going to be a big part of that U17 program this next year. I think both guys are really intriguing as well. Nolan Wolitsky is another defenseman I really like as well. Riker Doka. There's a really good defensive class for the 2010s in my view. Some other 2010s to watch. that I think are really high-end guys. There's a ton. I could get into a lot of different guys here, but I'm not going to go like crazy into each and every person. But that's a good grouping there. I can't give you a top 10 there, Dane, but that's a good amount of guys that I really enjoyed watching and think are good players as well. 30 minutes in here, so appreciate those that have been on. If you're new, again, like I said, be like Dane, be like John. Feel free to leave any comments on the side, and we'll go through them. We got a few minutes here, so if you guys want to ask any questions, feel free to leave them off to the side, and we could talk more. We could talk more about the USHL, their new Western expansion, what that could curtail. I think there's going to be some intrigue in terms of what the next steps are at the USHL level. You've got the OHL draft is coming up here in a couple weeks. I'm unfortunately not going to be able to do a live stream for those, unfortunately, but I will do my best to give my rankings and kind of go from there on what I can do. I'm not going to guarantee that I will have a round 1 or round 2 or round 2 through 15 draft, stream for those, unfortunately. Just got some prior engagements and things that, I had to be a part of. But I will do, my best to recap that either on the channel or on my X feed. If you're not following me on X, I will also, I also post a lot on there too. Some different prospect things, some different things that, I look at and kind of analyze and, give my immediate feedback to a lot of different transactions and things you see in junior hockey as well as the draft. So we'll keep going here and keep grinding, but, there's a lot to like here with some different guys. I talked a lot about some sleepers in my last video from a couple weeks ago. So if you haven't watched the 26 NHL draft sleepers video I did, do yourself a favor and check that out. Did a lot of different deep dive into some players I really enjoyed and liked. Obviously, the Elite Prospects guide came out this week, and there was some reaction I had to it initially. Obviously they had guys. I can give you some notes here, and we'll talk about it. They had guys like Verhoff was outside their top 10. I don't agree with that at all. I think Verhoff to me is a minimum top 8 player in this draft, and I would argue even top 5. Emil Hemming was listed at 18. That's not going to happen. Emil Hemming, there's maybe 10 players that are better than him in this draft, in my view. Sheloff is listed at 26. I understand why he would be ranked there. I just think he's better than that. And I think he's, to me, he's been very underrated in the public sphere as a whole. So that's just not necessarily them. Hurlburt at 30 was crazy low in my view. He's a mid first round guy, no question in my view. You can't ignore the shot. You can't ignore the offense. You can't ignore the power that he brings for being a smaller guy. I think that's just that's poor viewing in my view. Hurlburt's an instant top 15 pick in this draft. I feel like with Brian Rubrick as a guy, I think we're overcorrecting a lot on in the viewing and the scouting community. This is a kid to me is an edge of the first round talent. You're going to get some enigmatic guys that fall in the late first round. To me, he fits right in that scheme. Have him in the late second round, I think is not doing your due diligence or your justice in terms of evaluating, in my view. Nordmark was really low, but given how he acted at the U18s and how he's acted in general, I think his immaturity is really damaging his draft stock, in my view. To me, Nordmark, in the best case scenario, is a top 10 selection. In his worst case, he's a mid-round pick. He's got to find what he wants to be. And obviously this year and what he's done in certain aspects is shown some real immaturity. He reminds me a lot of Trevor Connolly, had a lot of immature habits. Nordmark has a little bit more on ice, but he's got to figure it out. To me, he's probably a top 5 or 10 talent in this draft overall in terms of skill and skating and offensive game. But when you don't care about the defensive zone, you don't care to make smart plays, you take dumb penalties, you prevent yourself from being a first round pick. So Nordmark to me is a guy who should really wake up a little bit, get some good people around him that say, hey, listen, wake up. You're in your draft year. Get going here, because you are not going to be viewed the same way if you act like this going into your D+1 year. A guy like some other guys that weren't ranked that I was shocked by. Kulibiakin should have been ranked. Shocked that he was in the top 150. He's easily a second round talent in this grouping. Doesn't really make a lot of sense there. Merniques, I thought I was shocked to see him as high as he was. I do think Merniques, though, is a guy who should be in that edge of the first round, early second round grouping. Burchild was really low, had him as like a third round pick. I don't know that I see that at all. I think he's a guy who's probably on the second round, higher day 2 pick. Ludwig Anderson not being ranked was a huge oversight. Anderson's probably a top 75 player. How you don't rank him, that's just misevaluation. Plain and simple. Sheikh Lizamov, they actually really highly rated him, which I liked a lot, actually. I like the fact that they were very bullish on him. I think he's a really good player. Sheikh Lizamov, to me, though, is probably a second-round talent, and that's where they had him at. I think they had him at like 50s or something like that. Like that selection, too. A guy who I've really grown a lot over the last back half of the year has been Tyus Sparks. Came into Spokane, as a draft or, in the middle of the year as a trade. And I think was dynamite. I thought he was a really good energy player, showed some offense, has a lot of really good habits that, translate well to the National Hockey League. So I like that aspect of it too. Leo Henriquez is finally getting the love he so deserves. Really good really good, attacking kind of goaltender in terms of he really battles, makes a lot of saves, good overall lateral movement, good hands, brings a lot of really good ability to his game. And I think, as an overager, he's going to do really well and should be drafted in the third or fourth round in the NHL draft this year. But yeah, if you guys are just joining, we got about 10 minutes before the QMJHL draft here. I'm going to look here and try and get I'm not going to have the live feed or anything, but I'm going to definitely do like the live board, if you will, just so I have it up. And then I can kind of share this from here. So I'll go ahead and share the tab. I'll share this now. So you guys have the view of the tabs here. The picks here are Miranda, Victoriaville, Halifax, Shawinigan. Shawinigan picks again at 6. Halifax gets 2 of the top 7. I do think a lot of teams are bulking up here with picks because of the talent pool not being the greatest. Sorry, I didn't have it up here. I thought I did. I think there's going to be some interesting options here for, Miranda might not get the best player to commit here. But I do think there's, some options that they could have. I know Miranda always has trouble getting guys to fully commit to their team for whatever reason. Does a guy like, I don't know if a guy like Max Bryan fits here. Do they go ahead and take him at 1 just because he'll be willing to report? And I don't have any intel that says he would or wouldn't be. I'm just kind of throwing names out there. But it should be really interesting to watch this grouping. I think there's, some of these guys I think will be selected a lot lower than they probably should be, and some of them will go a lot higher than they should be. That's just the nature of the beast when it comes to this draft. But we're keeping plugging away here. They honestly, in what I saw from the QMJHL draft too, it seems like they got a really nice setup for those kids, which is great to see. It's cool to be able to have those moments for those kids, and I give them a lot of credit for really setting them a nice draft experience. It's a good job on the QMJHL and the CHL as a whole to make that a really fun experience for the kids. We can kind of plug along here and see what other things are going on. Some other guys that I didn't mention that are guys to watch in maybe this first round consideration. Luke McGuire might be a guy who sneaks in here at the end of the first round. I like Maverick Fizdale might be a kid who might get some looks as well. He's a little bit more raw, I think. But we'll see what happens here. So it looks like the first overall pick was made, and it's Thomas Boisvert going at 1. Boisvert was my number 4 selection in terms of where I thought he was in terms of the order. But obviously, if they got him to commit, that's a big commit for them. Boisvert is a guy who I think would be there for a couple years as well. He won't be a one and done guy in the queue. I think he, will bring some explosive ability and some game, some high octane offensive game to Randa. So that's good for them for having that selection. That's obviously something that was evaluated and they thought they can get him to come. And, I'm hoping for their sake that he actually will come and play for them. I don't have any inkling to think that he wouldn't come and play for them. But it's cool to see that he was able to, get his opportunity to do more. So, obviously moving, that's the other thing too about this is moving to North America and playing for an academy like Mount St. Charles and then coming out and being the number 1 overall selection. That's going to be an interesting dynamic to watch, right? Like, are these top, the Q kids, I think Max McCarthy is already looking for, he's the presumptive number 1 overall next year. He, I believe, is already looking at Shattuck St. Mary as a potential option for next year, which in his draft year is a massive, massive boon for him. So that answers that question. If there's a 2027 QMJHL draft guy to watch, it's Max McCarthy. And he right now is the leading candidate for number 1 in my view. We'll keep going now. Victoriaville is up on the board here, so we'll see where they go here. They're gonna lose a guy in Sheloff, it looks like. I don't know that he'll return next year. It's been up in the air whether he is or isn't. I think he's reported that he has. If he does, great. At the very least, Alexei Vlasov is a kid who's a very, very intriguing player for Victoriaville, and I think there's some real opportunity for Victoriaville here to maybe add in a guy that foils in well with those two. Should Sheloff decide he wants to come back. So maybe this is a look for a guy like Julian Bergeron might be a selection here. We'll have to see where exactly things go from here. But then Halifax going here at 3. Part of me thinks that a guy like Zach Charbonneau might go to Halifax. I just have a feeling like they're going to find a way to maybe get a kid who maybe wasn't thought to be in the QMJHL consideration and maybe played it off as if he wasn't going to be here. So we'll have to see, though. But I do like the grouping overall. I like what's available for Victoriaville, and we'll just have to see where things go from here. But we're going to keep plugging along here and just hopefully they make the selection here pretty shortly. But good on them for making the selection and finding their opportunity to get a guy like Boisvert. Waiting here now for additional selections to come through. Again, if you guys have any questions, there's 5 on here. Really appreciate those that have been on. Do yourself a favor, leave a comment, subscribe, do what you have to do. We can talk about NHL draft as well if you guys want. If you guys want to talk 27, 28, whatever draft you want to talk, I'm down to talk about it. Just to pass the time. And obviously, we're talking about the QMJHL draft today. But yeah, my number 4 is off the board in Boisvert. Julian Bergeron to me seems like the next selection, but we'll see what happens here. Is it possible for Charbonneau to flip and play in the queue this year? Honestly, John Neal, I think that's why Halifax traded up. I really do. I think there's an option for them to look and get a guy like Zach Charbonneau. Now, whether or not, you get a great option there if they decide to select him there. I think Muskegon's a really good program, and they do a nice job in the USHL. Them in Chicago and Sioux Falls and Green Bay are like the 4 really good programs in the USHL. So he wouldn't be wrong in either selection or situation. But I do think there's an element of that right now with the Halifax moving up in the draft order. I do think they're considering taking a guy like Zach Charbonneau. So good question, John. Appreciate it as always, bud. But we'll keep going here. Just waiting for the second pick to come through. Have to see where, if anything is done here. I think we're waiting still. So Boy Bear was the first selection, as we just talked about. And we're just kind of waiting. Yeah. Goaltending wise, I don't know that there's going to be a first round goaltender. I think there's some good talents, but I don't know that I would say there is a first round goaltender in my view. Two guys that I think are worth noting that are probably going to go in like the third or fourth round. One guy would be Zachary Lanace. Probably said his name wrong, but he's a guy who I think is a really intriguing goalie, and I think he's done a nice job this year in terms of his game. And then the other guy I think is a worthwhile consideration is Simon Olivier Gerard. I think they're both guys that are pretty high-end goaltenders for the U18 level, and I think we'll probably find some games in the QMJHL next year. Those two are like probably the cream of the crop out of the grouping for goaltenders this year. So keep plugging along here, man. This draft is going slow. Victoriaville here is still making their selection. Curious to see if there's a trade maybe or something that's going to come up that could prevent it from being something to watch. But we'll see. Also looking on X as well to see if I'm seeing anything before the actual draft comes up on here. So the second pick was just made, and we have Vincent Boutet. He was pretty highly thought of defenseman. To me, it seems like there's a committing issue there. So obviously Boutet was a kid who looked like he wanted to commit there. So credit to him for that. I don't even know that he was the best defenseman in my view, but Boutet was a guy who probably was going to get a first round selection. It's not like off the board or anything. I just am not overly blown away by him being in the second overall pick, especially when there was better players available. We'll keep plugging along here now. 3 here. Is this where Zach Charbonneau goes? Do they shake up the board and really make something happen here? There's a real possibility of, I think, that happening. Obviously, they like the fact that Julien Bergeron is still on the board. I think, I don't know that, Max Bryan goes to Halifax necessarily. I think Max Bryan might be a guy who goes at 5 to St. John. I think they would love that pick there for St. John, but couldn't think of their name for a second. We'll keep plugging along here. Some other guys that, some underrated guys that, aren't going to be selected today, but I really like their overall game. Nathan Riendo, smaller guy at 5'7", 163 pounds, but this is a kid who really impressed me throughout his views this year. I was blown away by how much of a tenacious player he was for being a smaller guy. Not afraid to get into any situation, which was great to see. Should be fun to see what they're able to do here now with the rest of these selections here. But I like the selection a lot not necessarily the selection, but I'm talking like in terms of Halifax. There's a lot of opportunity here for them to make some really good selections and really find a good talent here. We're just kind of waiting for that to come through. And we'll just see what happens. We're trying our best here to kind of get these picks going along. We're just waiting for more to come through. But yeah, if you guys are new, again, subscribe to the channel. We have gotten a few new subscribers, which is great to see. I apologize for not having more videos out here. I'm going to do a bunch of clips, I think, later on tonight of some things, and probably put some shorts out for people, just try and draw more people to the channel. But it's great to see that there are more people on here and consistently commenting, which is great. Dane and John, appreciate you being on here, and hopefully you're still on here. But we're gonna keep plugging along and finding where these next guys could go here. But Halifax, like I said, they have a lot of different. I wonder if they continue the B train. They just continue to go and they take a guy like Bergeron here. That to me seems to be the next step, the next natural fit here. Maybe they break it and do the C with Charbonneau, right? They may or may not do that. I don't know. But either way, should be fun to watch and see what happens here. And hoping for the best with Halifax and what they're trying to do here. But we're still waiting on that selection right now. Let's see what else here. As far as stuff on the channel that I'm going to be doing next, I'm going to do, some of the clips are going to go out next week in terms of, some different videos for guys that, players I really like, players that I think deserve a little bit more notoriety. I'm going to talk a little bit more about like the NHL draft. I'm not going to cover that necessarily, but I might put out like a list on X as well as on YouTube of just some players to watch, guys that I think could be selections. They're going to go ahead. That's going to go on Wednesday. And then obviously Friday is the OHL draft. So maybe I'll do kind of a preview next Thursday or something, or maybe next Wednesday. Maybe I'll do like a NHL draft review and preview for the OHL draft. I think I'll do something like that next Wednesday and do kind of a quick draft on that. And then the other thing I want to do as well is obviously there's the news now that the CHL import draft is including 2010s. I'm going to try my best to maybe do an updated CHL import draft as well and include the 2010s and make like a formalized rank. I'm going to try and do that on the channel here. Probably not next week, but the week after. And then obviously draft time's draft time, right? So I'll be doing a day one. I'll do round one. I'm going to be doing a full stream for that. Round 2 through 7, unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to do, which sucks because usually that's like my best performing stream. But I do have a commitment that I do have to follow through with. So I have to do that. But I will do a recap maybe on the 28th of my thoughts of rounds 2 through 7 with some of the prospects who I thought were guys that fell too low, too high. That's kind of the plan for the channel. And then obviously on the 30th is the CHL import draft, which happens during the day. So I will probably not be able to do that. I will try my best, but we shall see. I'm going to do my best to get all these drafts covered, though, in some way, shape, or form, whether it's well after the fact or during, as much as I can. And then next year, I'm going to really try and make it a dedication to where I can get to all these drafts and do them while it's live. But we'll keep going here. You said next Friday hype. Yeah, next Friday I'm not going to be able to do, but Wednesday I will be able to do a live stream in some way, shape, or form, John. So I'll be on there for that. John says there's a trade going on with Halifax. Okay, let's see what that would be. And then Dane, I'm going to get into your question in a minute here. I just want to get this trade and then I'll answer your question. Waiting for it to come through. So let's see. A trade is coming through, and I'm just waiting for the details. John, if you get to it, let me know if you get it before I do. You can throw it in the comments as well. Fortunately, I just didn't have the live feed tonight, so that's preparedness on my part. So my bad there. But I'm still not seeing it, which is weird. And then, all right, Dane, I'll just answer your question now. So Dane says, who are your top 5 for next year's NHL draft? John said I'm watching on Flow. They haven't said it yet. Okay, sounds good. I gotta actually renew my subscriptions. That's not me, but I'm getting it as a birthday gift, so I'll have it here soon. But thanks for that, John. And then Dane says, who are your top 5 for the draft next year? Top 5, I actually feel really good about where I feel about these guys. To me right now, my number 1 is still Landon DuPont. I think what he showed at the Memorial Cup this year was tremendous. But he's like a 1A, 1B for me. I really like Nazar Krivalov. I think both guys are going to be really. I mean, Nazar Krivalov looks the closest I've seen to an Alex Ovechkin. I really think this kid's a dynamite player. And I think he's a better skater than Ovechkin was even when he was younger. Privalov is my 1B. I would go 1A would be DuPont, 1B would be Privalov. And then after that, I would probably go I really like Alexis Joseph at 3. I think he's a really talented player. I really like his overall game. Another guy I really like too. Sorry, I'm looking for what I had for my top 5, so I apologize. I'm kind of rambling. But let me get to it real quick because I did make like a post about it. And I wouldn't change much about it either. Actually, I had it somewhere else. One sec. Let me look. Sorry, Dean, this doesn't make for good podcasting. So let me get to where I have the rank, and that probably just make it a million times easier for myself. All right. There she is. My 3 would be, Joseph would be my 3. 4 right now for me is Sergei Skvortsov. I think the kid's dynamite. Skvortsov could be a guy who jumps ahead of Joseph. I think he's electric as hell. Really good player overall. Good skill set. Great skater. Really elusive player. Skvortsov to me he's 4 right now, but I wouldn't be surprised to see him go a little higher. And then 5 for me to close it out would be Milan Sundstrom. He would be my 5. I really like his game overall. Honorable mention to guys like Carter Meyer. I really like his game. He's a guy who's going to come to the Q next year and find his opportunity with Quebec. I liked Lucas Santala at the U18s. I really like Bossy Meyer. Jackson Jacobson's the guy who I really like as well. 27 draft for me right now is, I think, a pretty good. I would say it's an average draft. I think it's a good draft. I think the high-end talent is really impressive, at least coming out of their D-1 years. But I like the group overall. Dane says, thanks. My board is like literally the same. Hey, there you go. Cool. Love that, right? But yeah, that's kind of my grouping right now. So the 3rd pick just went. And the 3rd pick is Jacob McKinnon. Blainville Boisbriand. Oh my God. Wow. I had a stroke. He went here at 3. I'm just shocked Bergeron's falling. It's just weird to me. Like, McKinnon's a good player. I don't know that I think he's a guy I would have traded up for if you had other guys available. Just a weird selection there, but it is what it is. They must have got word. I really think, given that Halifax is willing to drop, makes me think that they're trying to get Zach Charbonneau. I just have a hunch here that that's the way they're looking. Sorry, my screen's all winging out. We're at an hour. So hour in, and I mean, we're only like 20 minutes in the actual draft, but 3 picks made. We only got 18 to make tonight, so we're getting there. We're looking now at Shawinigan here at 4. Obviously, I'm screaming at the board and saying Bergeron, Bergeron, Bergeron. Shocked that he hasn't been taken yet, so we'll see where we're going here with that. But yeah, there's a real interesting group there. Let's see what other things are going on here that. Let's keep plugging along here, waiting for more selections to come through. One thing I want to mention too, actually, in looking at some of the stuff coming up in future drafts, this Russian 2010 class is unbelievable. Like, they are phenomenal. I think it's one of the best birth years out of a country I've seen in like a really long time. We just talked about the Russians with the 08s, but I mean, the 2010 group is I could see like 45 or 50 kids selected out of that birth year. Like, it is a loaded group. So that's a group to watch, especially now with the IHF really loosening their international requirements on these players and like their ability to then now compete in different competitions. That's a scary group to watch, that 2010s group. There's going to be some real talent coming out of that group, that's for sure. I like the Swedes too for the 2010s. I think there's a solid group there as well. And I just talked with Tallest Tree in the Forest on one of the videos here, and he's not as bullish on the Finn class, but I really like the Finn 2010s. I think there's a really good depth overall, not like super high-end talent, but really good depth overall that I think will lead to good international success. And then obviously, I think there's good grouping all around, but those are some groupings I like here. But I do think this Quebec class, like in this birth year, like I don't know why, for whatever reason, isn't the strongest in my view. I think there's some good players, and I think there's guys that will do well. But I don't know. I mean, 10 out of 15 kids maybe I think will come out of this birth year and maybe make some real dent in the pro game. I don't know that I see this. Like, the Western Hockey League draft a couple weeks ago was loaded. There was probably 60 kids, and I normally rank like 25 or 30, and I thought there was a group that I probably missed on. Where it comes to this QMJHL draft, I feel like it's a little bit of a weaker crop. And next year seems a little stronger in my view. I actually think the 2011s are a pretty good group. I talked about Max McCarthy earlier. Zion Deakins is a kid who I think has really impressed a lot too. There's a few others that I didn't mention, but I think that Quebec grouping of those really good talents that used to come out every year, I think it's starting to come back a little bit more. The question, though, and the real trend that we're seeing is, are those kids staying in Quebec, or are they going to North America and other varieties? And I think Hockey Quebec is watching with bated breath. They're going to want to keep some of these kids in their systems. So that's going to be a really interesting development to watch as we go on in the next couple of years here. Do those kids want to translate into being guys that consistently play through the Hockey Quebec systems? And I don't know that that's necessarily going to happen. So we'll keep going here. We're Shawinigan now at 4, still waiting on the selection here, but that's okay. We're just kind of working through it. We're plugging along here. We got a few more selections still to be made. But yeah, and then obviously with the Q, I think a lot of people are wondering with the QMJHL where exactly, where do they fit in here in this new development landscape? And I'll be honest, I think there is still a spot for the QMJHL in a lot of ways. to me, the Quebec League, I think even the USHL, I really like what they're doing with the Western expansion. It's just a matter of getting the talent that they need over appropriately in those markets. They took some risk in taking some guys from non-traditional countries. Like obviously a guy like Yermolov was a guy selected, Russian 2010 kid. That's a really one of their more high-end players. They went and took him in the 5th round thinking that he would come over. But he just signed a 4-year deal with Evangard Omsk. So clearly that's not on the radar. So it was a risk they took. But it should be interesting to watch here. So we got the 4th pick here is Pierre-Alexandre Lemieux. Love this selection. He was my 2. I think the best pick overall so far in this draft. I really like Shawinigan taking that selection there. I think he's a guy who will play he will be a major focal point for Shawinigan. And, maybe they come in here and they take Bergeron later. If they do, I think they walk out of this draft screaming pure joy because, a guy like Lemieux is one of the better players I think that was available today. And I really like that selection for Shawinigan. Good evaluation, good overall player, and I think there's some real upside with him. So that's a solid pick. So my number 1 is still available. My number 3 is still available. My number 3 being Max Bryan. So I think Bryan will go here in the next 3 or 4 picks at a minimum. And then obviously Bergeron probably should have already gone. I'm shocked that he's fallen. Does not make sense to me whatsoever. I think he was the best kid available. So we'll see what happens here. But does he go to a team like does he go to St. John maybe? I don't know. That's a real possibility. Does Bergeron go and maybe he's going to Shattuck St. Marion? We don't know. We'll have to see. This guy's gotten the most handshakes so far. I'm assuming you're talking about Lemieux. Sorry, I don't have the live feed, John. I should have put it up, but I didn't. But thanks for that, John. We are waiting here for number 5. Number 5 being St. John. And I really liked St. John's draft last year. Like they did an excellent job last year, in my view. I believe they took Max Blanton, one of their selections. Nolan Peru just got traded, but I really like that selection too. I think they were, to me, one of the stars of the draft last year. I like that they were willing to take risk and go and find players that they thought were really good players as well. And let me just check. Yeah, because Nolan LaRue just got traded to Valdor, but that was honestly, I thought that was a really savvy selection for them to take him. Blanton's a guy who I think could play for them next year. But there's a solid group here of players that are still available that I think you have to consider. So keep plugging along here. I got 5 on the stream. So if you're new here, hello. Appreciate those that have been on here. I don't have the live feed going, but at the very least, you can follow along with me, and I'm kind of tracking the board as I can, and we'll kind of go from there. But appreciate those that have been on here and staying on here. Obviously Dane and John are long guys that have been on the channel now for a little bit, and appreciate them being on here. And we'll keep keep growing this thing a little bit more. We'll keep pushing it out there. Obviously, it's a niche, so you're not going to have the biggest growth in the world, but share it with those that you think would be interested. I really appreciate when people do that. If you're watching this on recording, hello, welcome, subscribe, would be great. And we'll just keep playing here as we're looking through the rest of this draft. But we're waiting here for Shawinigan not Shawinigan, St. John to make their selection, and have to see where some of these guys are going here. Let's see what we got going. I'll get along here. All right, St. John's. Oh, Mateo Norbert went to Armada. Interesting. Okay. I'm seeing that trade come along finally with the return. That's an interesting return. All right. I got the draft feed on my YouTube, which I should have looked earlier, but St. John takes a timeout. Thanks for that, John. I got the feed up now on my end. If you guys want, it's on YouTube. If you go to Eastlink on YouTube, you can find the feed as well. You don't have to necessarily have Flow Hockey, but so if you want, it's on there. I'm gonna just put the comment here so for people that need to know. If you look up Eastlink TV, that's the name of the YouTube link if those are interested. So put it on there. But if you go on YouTube, it's on there too. They did honestly, their coverage looks awesome. They did a nice job. St. John does have a very talented American kid sign from USFD TV that will be coming out. Keep that in mind. We thought this would be a great spot for the baby St. Jack Charbonneau, a player that got drafted this season in the USHL, and maybe they can get him to report. Let's see here. And they're pivoting. This is all things that might be going on. When I look at St. John last year, St. John, that I thought it really was potential, but it never really seemed to come together on the ice. There were it does look like they're making a trade, don't they, John? That's what it looks like, at least on the feed. Yeah, I can't get over how good this draft coverage looks. It looks fantastic. They did a really nice job. All right. Looks like the trade's happening. Just got to figure out who and where. So we might have to get comfortable here. That's how unpredictable this draft is. Expect the unexpected. Yesterday, as I sat down for a 15-minute interview with Mario Cicchini, that'll be coming up at the night, day number 2. He was on the say it's a matter. It's going to be a long night. So you confirm? So Victoriaville moving up now. So the T-Birds will already get picked number 2. Yep. I will say, before the draft, it was rumored they really like Julian Bergeron. And I think they might be shocked that he's still here at 5. Yeah, he's got to be picked here. They're talking about Bergeron here for 5, and I mean, God, how he fell to 5 is beyond me. I did not see movement here at 5. I thought St. John, like we talked about, I thought St. John was going to try. Julian Bergeron should be the selection here. We'll see, though. It's to me the best player in the draft if he's taken here at 5, which, again, good on Victoriaville for making that selection. I think they should have probably made it at 2, but I don't know. Who knows? Not really sure what the thought is if that's not the selection here at 5, but
people that think it's madness, crazy. No one knows what's going on. We're going to be in for a long time. Buckle up, folks. Here for the first time in Halifax.
Damn, Victoriaville's got 4 firsts. They have 4 firsts. Jesus. So it's not showing on here, but it looks like Victoriaville has 14 and 17 as well as part of this trade. Wow.
You just never know. 2 bits in the top 5. Good work out of that side of rebuilding. You guys familiar with the movie, The Tales of the Traveling Pants? Yeah. He might be in for the tale of the traveling pants. What is what a trade. St. John's Sea Dogs trade to Victoriaville, the first round pick, number 5 of 2026. Les Sea Dogs échangent au Tigre leur choix de première ronde de 5e 2026. En retour, Victoriaville cède aux Sea Dogs. The Victoriaville trades to St. John Sea Dogs. Pick number 14 of round 1, 2026. Pick number 17 of round 1, 2026. Le choix de première ronde numéro 14, 2026 et le choix de première ronde numéro 17, 2026. J'appelle donc les Tigres de Victoriaville et je l'invite sur scène.
Jeez, they take longer to announce this trade? My God. The East Link stream is better than the Flow Hockey stream, LOL. Flow doesn't have the overlays. Yeah, see, that's hard. Like, when they don't have the overlays, that's kind of a tough scene. But the East Link TV, honestly, their feed looks tremendous. Good on them for having, like, a really nice feed for them. And obviously, I mean, the OHL draft did a really nice job last year, too. So, you know, the Western Hockey League did an awesome job too with the Victory Plus stream. It's cool to see that these junior drafts are really starting to get their production of these drafts, and you know, credit to them. They're really professional looking drafts when you're watching these, and I think the USHL probably should look into that as well. They were a little better this year, but I think there's some more work still with that. So it looks like the selection was made, and we got Jacob Royer going at 5. Okay. Okay. All right. Well, Royer, I guess is how they said it, but he's my 7, so it's not crazy off the board. But, man, what did Julian Bergeron kill somebody? Like, I don't understand. Just weird. Good player though. It's just weird to see Bergeron falling. But yeah, Royer is a good selection. It's a worth, like, before the draft, you would told me he would have went top 5. I wouldn't have thought too crazy about it. But a good player.
Kind of more in line with what I thought they would do with their first pick, and that is go out there, get an impact forward who can be a game maker.
Hey, shit, Shawinigan, if they go and get Bergeron, man, I would be running if I were them and saying, you guys are all idiots. Like, how is he not picked yet? Roy is a good player, though. That was a good selection. It's just shocking given what's still available. So, you know, like I said, Max Bryan's my 3rd. Bergeron's still there as my 1st. After that would be Porcelino and Charbonneau. What?
So this is kind of more in line, which I thought Victoriaville would do with their pick. When you talk about a kid that's just trying to find his focus, it comes down to coaching as well. They're going to be able to keep this guy moving forward.
All right. Well, we're moving along here. Pick 6 is on the radar here, and we're finding our way, but very odd draft so far. I will say, very odd draft. There's some good, like, it's not crazy off the board or anything. It's just an odd way in which it's going. Okay, junior drafts are fun, right? Keep plugging here. We got an hour and 20 in. Thanks for those that have stuck along. And again, like I said, Eastlink TV's got the feed. They're honestly, it's a really nice job what they've done with the feed. Looks like Schwenningen's up next in terms of their selection. So, they went ahead and took Pierre Alexandre Lemieux earlier. And we'll go ahead and, naturally, I think the pick is going to be Bergeron. Again, unless I don't know when he's killed somebody. I don't know. But to me, there wasn't 5 better players than him in this birth year. Just a weird situation overall. But
The reward much greater than the risk that they're because when he's on, it's on. 100%. If they need someone to replace all this forwards they lost, you're looking at him right here. A great start to rebuild. He's been standing by with Pete Robertson down by the side of the stage. Jacob, could see your mom overwhelmed with emotions up in the stands. Seemed like a family guy. What does this moment mean to you?
It means a lot. I can't describe this feeling right now, but it means a lot. My family is here right now, and I won't be here.
Before we could hear your name called, we had a timeout. We had a trade. What was going through your mind there? Did you have any idea you were going to be the pick?
No, I had no idea. I was thinking a lot. I had a trigger, but
Well, we're looking forward to it. Congratulations to you tonight. Thank you very much. Quick stop as we take a quick time out of our own to collect their thoughts as to what has just transpired here, gentlemen. You're watching QMJHL. Entry draft and the sunset here in Halifax. For advertising opportunities on Eastlink Community TV, please email eastlinktv@eastlink.ca. Jameson's kitchen has know-how. Searching for providers in her area, calling around and waiting on hold, Janice decided to be her own electrician. Be like Janice, go local quote, simple select the category, describe the job.
Halifax looks so nice. Honestly, I love their uniforms too. Like and they're just a good organization. They just do well. They're actually owned by a group in Michigan. Simon family owns them. But they're no expense spared kind of organization. So they're gonna find their good talents. So credit to them and what they've been able to do. But we're at commercial right now, so obviously nothing's moving too quick here in the QMJHL draft.
Working on display. 5 days off the board. All the work, all the effort, all the sacrifice. All the rewards there. Here's the phone from the parents as their baby boy. Are heading to the next stage of their hockey career and their hockey dream. Welcome back to Scott Bank Center.
All right, we're ripping through these here now. All right, seven people on. Hey, what's going on, people? I'm going to be doing some mock stuff a little bit after as well, depending on how late I go. I mean, if we go past like 9:30, I probably won't. But if not, feel free to leave your comments too. Like, you don't have to necessarily keep a QMJHL draft. It's moving a little slow, so we can go ahead and talk, NHL mock drafts or NHL draft players in general as well. Not afraid to talk about that, or we can talk about whatever you guys want. Even if you guys want to talk about Memorial Cup, we can talk Memorial Cup too. Was surprised to see Kitchener do as well as they did, but credit to them. UC Hocus is he's destined for the National Hockey League in my view. Like, he's going to be a wonderful coach one day in the National Hockey League. He deserves the ability and the chance to be there in my view. I just think he's just such a great thinker of the game and really quite the guy to evaluate and identify good talent. All right, we're plugging along here. Who do you think is going to host in 28 for the? You're talking for the Mem Cup. So who I know Moncton just put in for it. Trying to think who else has actually put in for it in 28. Look, I mean, Cologne would be one that I would see. So there's been 4 teams have submitted bids. Quebec City, Gatineau, Moncton, and Newfoundland. Really, only the Q? That's interesting. Honestly, probably Moncton. I think Moncton will be the group that. Yeah, I think Moncton will be the group that hosts it. I know they love having Quebec host a lot of these, but I do think Moncton will be the eventual, especially with the owner passing. I think there's going to be some sympathy there, in my view. So that would be my guess there, John Neal. I think it would be Moncton. It looks like they're picking here with this selection, so it'll probably be quicker on the QMJHL feed. So it's got to be Bergeron here, right? Like, it's got to be. They're walking up right now. And Halifax picks next.
Yeah, and you know what? We kind of talked about it off there between the three of us. There seems to be a very similar model that the Shawinigan Cataract are following, and that is a model that the Chicoutimi Saguenay put in place a few years ago at the draft when they had many first-round picks, all of which was half of the Quebec Canada game.
Hello, everyone. I was speaking French because I want to say something because we lost a friend, a close friend, been in business with him for 30 years, Mr. Robert K. Irving. I want to set that.
It's classy by the Shawinigan guy to mention Robert Irving. That's really cool. I'm hoping Moncton or Quebec City because I can maybe travel to it. That'd be cool for you, man. That would be awesome if you could have the opportunity to do that, man. I did the Saginaw one a few years ago, and honestly, it was awesome. I loved it. That'd be cool for you, man. There we go. Common sense prevails. Julien Bergeron is selected. Shawinigan is clearly done their homework. They've got my 1 and 2. So that's awesome. I really like what they've done here. I'm shocked that not Moncton, I don't know why, Gatineau or Quebec. Oh, okay. Gatineau looks cool from like video. I mean, I really like their arena. It looks cool. They're kind of on the border of Ottawa, aren't they, too? Like, they were, like, right on the border of, like, that's why they always have the crossover games with the OHL. See, I'm closest to the OHL, so I have a couple of teams that are an hour distance from me that I could watch, but actually 4 or 5, actually, they're about an hour away from me, approximately, but yeah, I can't believe Bergeron fell that low. That's crazy to me, man. Looks like Halifax is.
There's a lot that they can be the most productive player in this draft class in the queue. That he might finish the most points with any player in this draft. He has that high of a ceiling. And it's just his ability to drive plays. The one thing I'd say is now that he needs to work on his first explosive step where his rock isn't the best. But again, that's someone's on you to improve your skating. His ability to score darn points and score blocks is phenomenal. Yeah, line this kid up, get him in the lineup. You're winning it well on the way to a rebuild. He's going to be an absolute fan favorite. You want to get not just put the puck in the net. He loves to punish with the body. Yeah, him and Lemieux are a great 1-2 punch here for the Cataracts. This is a phenomenal start for them up front. These two are going to wreak havoc for years in the Western Division. Hey, you know what? I think these two picks are going to get here in this top 5.
Daniel says, I've been to Gatineau 2 years ago. There's no buses that go over the main border. Oh, okay. It's beautiful. Yeah, I've always wanted to go to Maine. It's a beautiful area. But that's a bummer, man. That's actually a real bummer for you. That's not possible. See, I'm lucky in Michigan. I can kind of go back and forth. You know, I got access to a lot of different hockey, so that helps me a lot. But that's a bummer for you, man.
Julian Bergeron, number 6 to Shawinigan. The second pick for the Cats today. You're going with Pierre-Alexandre Lemieux. How does it feel to be drafted at 6th overall? I'm going to Cataracts.
Oh, it's incredible. Well, to go with my family, my friends, if you're all watching there, no words. I'm so happy to be drafted by Cataracts. And yeah.
You had a lot of friends and family who were hugging up there. One of those guys, your uncle, Louis Robitaille, a lot of experience in this league. What's it like growing up and looking up to him, and what advice did he have for you coming in?
All right.
Working hard every time on ice, all fights.
Did he say Luke Robitaille is his... Oh.
He had 55 points in 42 games. What kind of player are the Shawinigan Cataracts getting?
I'm a power forward, but also a playmaker. I can pick the puck in the net and make the plays beside me better. And just, yeah.
All right. So Max Bryan's my next best player available right now. I wonder if Max Bryan goes here. Halifax being a Nova Scotia kid. Yeah, I think Bryan's the pick here.
Wanted to have this draft here. Get on that stage and make a big splash. We heard Cam Russell on the pre-show talk about how we want the best player available. You put that player on this board for them right now. Oh, he's got him in the hat, so it looks like they are going to make the draft right here.
Yeah, they're going to take Bryan here.
It's win now mode for this year. We talked about where those
Either Bryan or Charbonneau. I think there's an outside shot at Charbonneau here.
Time to see if you've got a player that can step into the lineup next year, or maybe we'll help you down the road in the future trade, bringing another impact player. Time to go to Mario Cassini.
Waiting for Halifax here. Looks like Halifax is going to pick.
We're still talking Halifax. We're still talking Halifax. Yeah, it's like you say, right? They made the splash. They made the trade. You hinted at it, Matt. The crowd here starting to get a little late. They want to see some action. You know, they paid big bucks for these free tickets. Come out this team, pick a player that's going to help this franchise win and win now. Bergeron does not have to go far.
Hey, John, I got a question for you. I know you said there's no buses that go over the main border. Do you, if you drive the bend, I'm assuming then? Because that would suck. Or you ferry over, maybe? I don't know. That's crazy, though.
Our student athlete of the year, who can serve as a role model for every player here. Please welcome from the Val-d'Or Foreur, Nathan Brisson.
Oh, good for him. Looks like I looked and they don't do ferries. And well, I mean, that makes sense, I guess. That makes sense. I would be, you never know. You get stuck in the ferry in the middle of winter would suck. One day I'll fly somewhere. I haven't flown as an adult. I'm not much of a flyer either, man. I've only gone once or twice. But I'm lucky that I have a lot of drivable hockey near me. So I do a lot of that usually. I haven't this much this year because I'm getting married this year, but in the coming years here next year. And 28, I'll probably be doing a lot more. All right. Didn't think we were going to have a speech here, but we do. Here, come on, QMJHL. Thanks, bud. I appreciate it, man. Thank you. Yeah, September. So right in the start of hockey season, but all good. Wife's on board. She's on the podcast occasionally too for comments and stuff. So she's probably watching in secret right now. But you did well when somebody supports you being a nerd like this, right? All right. Let's see what we're doing here, people. All right. And it is taking a sweet time. John says, yeah. I'm lucky in that regard, man. I'm lucky in that regard for sure. All right. I've been wearing this a lot lately, but for those that are interested, I got a Jofa hat I bought at Pure Hockey probably a year ago now, and saw it laying out today, and I'm like, it feels right to put it on for the stream, so I've had it backwards, but I'm gonna leave it like this now just so we could admire the Jofa logo while we're waiting for these picks to come through. But all right, let's keep rolling, people. Let's go. Thanks, Nathan. All right, you can get off our screen now. Appreciate it.
Now back to Mario Cicchini and the 7th pick to your Halifax Rosettes.
All right. Did we take the time to make the selection so they can run up there and make it? That would be ideal.
Well, they're ready to go. Raphael, step them up. Here, something to knock them down. Toujours inspirant d'entendre une fois parler de son parcours de cette façon-là. It always inspires me and moves me. The new players talk about their years in the QMJHL, the way Nathan was fit. Bravo, Nathan. Avec le 6e choix de la première ronde, le 7th pick of the first.
Honestly, I really like what Cicchini does with this stuff. Honestly, I like his approach. I don't know much about him, but he seems like a good guy for the Q with very little knowledge that I have in terms of the actual inner workings of the Q outside of the guys playing and views I have. But yeah, get the Simons up there and let him pick, man. This video looks sick. They got to be taking Max Bryan here, right? They got to go with the Nova Scotia kid. They're going to let the fucking house go completely crazy if they do that.
Brass hits the stage. They don't need an inflatable aid to skate out of the hop out there.
All right.
What's going to happen? Peter Simon at the mic. On behalf of my family, our entire staff, our partners, our great fans in the city of Halifax, we're so excited to welcome everyone to Moose Country. This is truly the best place to play junior hockey in Canada. And this is coming from a completely unbiased position. Thank you to to everyone who made this possible. We could not have done it without your support and effort. Lastly, our deepest condolences to the Moncton Wildcats and the Irving family. Mr. Irving was a great person and incredible for our league. Also, to Luca Ciantini and his entire family, our hearts and love are with you. Now, to make our first selection in the 2026 QMJHL entry draft, I'd like to invite Halifax native, Moosehead alumni, first-round NHL draft pick, and Nashville Predator Justin Barron up to the podium. With the 7th pick, the Moosehead
what?
select from Woodbridge Wolfpack.
Emmerich Renard? Okay. I thought he was a day 2 selection. That's an interesting selection there, but
Well, from Quebec, went down to play for the Connecticut Senior Rangers, got hurt, but the year before he went down, 70 points in 30 games. This kid's got power forward potential. He could be a top 6 in this league, and I feel
you had the chance with the Nova Scotian kid and you blew it. Max Bryan was clear and away the best player here. That's weird, but whatever. I don't mind the Menard pick. I just think he's probably somebody you could have got day 2.
But again, you're finding players now in all kinds of different areas. You find them in the U.S., you find them in Ontario, you find them in all these spots.
All right, Kate Breton here.
This is a very top-heavy forward draft class, and amongst that class, there is a lot of power forwards, and Emmerich is one of those guys. We talked about him. Not the biggest frame, but very, very strong.
So my 3 is Max Bryan. My 5 is Domenico Borsellino. Zach Charbonneau is still on the board, which isn't super surprising. And then I got Damian Norris at my 8. So I'll have to see what's going on here. But Menard isn't a guy who I thought was going to go in the day 1. So that's an interesting selection by Halifax.
Finally here in Halifax, they were a little easy to play against at times. There wasn't a sandpaper in that.
All right, let's see what's going on here now.
This kid now has a ton of pressure put on himself. Being picked by now the hometown team, the Halifax Moosehead. So, and picked by now that will play in the national hockey to say, hey, in Halifax, it's a pro hockey factory. Come and succeed here.
All right. We got Kate Breton here now at 8. We're almost halfway through the draft. In terms of different guys that obviously Halifax is going to be a team that I think does pretty well next year. Guys I think could be, overall, like Rimouski, I think is going to be a really good hockey team next year. I really like their group. I think there's a lot to like in terms of what they bring. The Newfoundland team is pretty solid too. I like that they got Ben Beach next year. They got quite a few talents that are going to play for them next year. Moncton is always going to be an elite group. I think they always find their way. Cape Breton's got a pretty good roster coming back next year. It should be I don't think there's like a super dominant Q team next year, but I think there's a pretty good grouping of teams that all could be, 1 to 7. I think there's a pretty comparable group of guys and teams that are all kind of in that boat. Man, I mean, Shawinigan did work tonight. That was a hell of a job by them to get Bergeron and Pierre Lemieux.
Something to remember forever. That's cool for him. Oh, very cool indeed. And this crowd here, they've been just waiting for this moment all day long. And when they moved the number 3 pick, now they get the number 7 pick in Menard. Again, they've got a really good prospect, a very good power forward who does have a lot of offensive flair to his game, which is something that, again, the Halifax move says me, they need to start building that. I'm looking for, if you talk about being a power forward, I'm looking forward to seeing his handle and his nifty hands and his fine move, able to.
All right.
Making the right pass, but just again, take the guys on in the one-on-one game.
You guys got any questions? Feel free to throw them off to the side. We got 7 on here, so thanks for joining on. Appreciate you being on here, and we'll keep keep plugging along here. Let me actually throw up the order again. I didn't realize how low I went, so that was my mistake. But that's the group right now of who's been selected. I think there's some interesting potential options here for guys that haven't been taken. Max Bryan to me is the best available right now. He's my 3rd overall. He will be a day 1 selection though. I would be shocked if he's not picked in the top 18 or 19 picks here. So Cape Breton's looking like they're going to select right now.
Of the first round, Cape Breton Eagles. We have a trade with Chicoutimi.
Oh, Chicoutimi jumps in here.
Trade with Chicoutimi. Chicoutimi, est-ce que vous confirmez? Confirm. Parfait, si vous pouvez amener les papiers, s'il vous plaît.
Chicoutimi's a group that's going to be really good next year too. Obviously, they did well at the Memorial Cup, but they're going to lose Maxime Massé, that's a big loss. But I feel like they got good supplementary talent that will be fine.
For Mario to say, remember, we're all friends. I think it's pretty safe to say that Couturier and Yannick Nam are good friends. With the amount of dealings that have gone back and forth between these two.
I'm wondering if Chicoutimi likes Brian here.
For helping them to capture their first championship since 1994. The Gilles Cortel Trophy on that desk, and it's the guy that was in that building that night. Let me tell you something, folks. Was one of the most intense and extreme hockey experiences of my life. I had people coming up to me, speaking French. I was just nodding and saying, "Hey, we." I couldn't understand them, and I couldn't hear them. It was that loud in that building. 4,280 in there, and a 50-50 pot of over $1 million for one game. Insane. Well, the Cape Breton helped deliver them a championship. They're hoping that a receipt gets returned to them.
All right, let's see.
3 very players here in this grade. And this pick is going to be put together, so we're going to be here for quite some time. Oh, you think this pick is good? Oh, yeah, it's going to go to Rabuski. Okay. Great bomb right there. Oh, yeah. That's your point, Mark. Get your snacks, get your drinks, have a seat. Sounds good. Ready to go. Alors, suivez-moi. Follow me closely here. The Cape Breton Eagles trade to les Saguenayens de Chicoutimi. Les Eagles échangent à Chicoutimi le choix de première ronde numéro 8, 2026. First round pick, number 8, 2026. Choix de deuxième ronde numéro 27, 2026. Second round pick, number 27, 2026. Choix de troisième ronde 2027. Third round 2027. Choix de première ronde 2028. First round 2028. Choix de première ronde Euro 2026. First round of the Euro Draft 2026. Et choix de sixième ronde numéro 107 2026. Sixth round 2026, number 107. En retour, Chicoutimi cède aux Eagles. Chicoutimi trades to Cape Breton. Lucas Beckman, Liam Lefebvre, et Alonso Gosselin.
Wow.
There's many members of the Cape Breton Eagles that you with me who already informed them of the spots to go. With pick number 8 about the first round, you say the Chicoutimi.
That was a hell of a trade sequence. Yeah, I agree. Jesus, indeed, John Neal. That's a lot going on. I'm not even sure if I followed that correctly. But Chicoutimi's.
Never wrong this early.
So Chicoutimi's going to probably be picking here, it looks like.
John do this before, but again, it was when he was making multiple picks, building that extremely good core in Chicoutimi, which just won a league championship. Only this time he's doing it as he trades away all those players that he wants to go. And gentlemen, again, and I remember us being on the table and on the desk as we watched make those moves and make those picks.
So Rimouski's going now. Which
is this the last time that we see the full cycle of junior hockey the way it was, culminating in a championship? It might be because this is a return trade. This is
and they traded it, yeah. Yeah, right.
So this is to complete that original trade if you're keeping up with all the movement. But I'm not. I asked Max to do that, so he's our resident.
Alrighty then. Hey, you know, these GMs are wheeling and dealing.
trade sur Rimouski. Choix de première ronde numéro 8, 2026. First round pick number 8, 2026. Choix de deuxième ronde 2026, numéro 27. Second round pick 2026, number 27. Et choix de troisième ronde 2027. Third round pick 2027. En retour, Rimouski cède à Chicoutimi et Rimouski trades to Chicoutimi. Louis-Félix Gagnon. Rimouski avec le 8e choix de la première ronde with the first round 8 pick.
All right.
Merci. Thank you. J'appelle sur scène Alexandre Tanguay, copropriétaire, Sébastien Noël, président, Danny Dupont, directeur général, Luc Michaud, directeur général adjoint.
All right, can we make the selection here? This is taking forever.
Jean-Philippe Débubé, directeur service aux joueurs et opérations hockey, et Joël Perrault, entraîneur-chef. Out of it all, again, I do want to stress, with respect to Alonzo Gosselin and the MLB, the only case that for 6 picks across the Eagles to complete this deal with Chicoutimi. Right now, Cape Breton has voted the captain. Wagon, absolute wagon. A lot of bets, but you're getting arguably the best goalie in the CHL. You're probably their MVP of the Memorial Cup in Lefebvre and Gosselin, who's ready to take that step on that. Come the Oceanic. They take the stage quickly.
All right, Rimouski. Let's make the pick here, peeps.
After a season where they hosted the Memorial Cup 2 years, and now trying to restart the wheel. Right now, for them, I would say the best available player. First of all, we want to say a huge thank you to the Halifax community for the awesome win.
Year 8.
We also want to offer our sympathy to the Moncton Wildcats and the Irving family. On aimerait également souhaiter nos sympathies au Forêt de Val-d'Or.
Year 8. Let's keep going here. It's been a while here between picks. And we have the selection, Justin Gagnon. Okay. I don't know why. Like, some of these picks are weird, man. Like, Gagnon's the guy who I thought would have been a D2 guy, too.
comes in with a lot of size, 6'3", and this is a kid that is able to excel.
Sherbrooke now up next.
Really works well in the tight space. Yes, a theme we're seeing, hard to play against, physically dominant, big body, is going to step in right away and be a contributor. Ruski is in the middle of a full rebuild.
You know what's funny is I will say that, like, when they just made the mention on Eastlink, it seems like bigger guys are getting taken earlier in this draft, which makes it even more surprising to me that Max Bryan didn't go or hasn't gone yet. Like, he fits, he's 6'2", 190 pounds, high-end skill player. I would have taken him over Gagnon all day, and that's nothing against Gagnon. I just think that something, I don't know if they're worried about his dominance compared to the others in Nova Scotia Loop. I'm not sure. Brian's a guy who should have been taken already, in my view.
Little motions, everything that he does just to excel.
So we're at 9 now. We're working through it, trying to get through what we can, and hopefully pick up a little bit more once the trades start dying. But we go Sherbrooke, Val-d'Or, Charlottetown, and it looks like 12 is 12 is Big Como. All right, we're eight strong in here. Again, if you guys are new to the channel, do yourself a favor, please subscribe. Really appreciate those that have been on here and continue to be on here. It's much appreciated. We're working through and trying to get through this QMJHL draft here, and there's a lot of interesting guys that are still available right now. But if you guys don't want to talk QMJHL draft, we can talk NHL draft. We can talk, NCAA commitments, different things like that. If you guys want to talk about that, that's fine too. But it's not just it's for anything. So any questions you guys have, anything you guys want to talk about, feel free to do so on the side, and we can talk more about it.
And a nice piece of work here by Ruski getting this pick.
Really are. It was aggressive.
And now they flip Gagnon in this trade in order to get Gagnon. Again. Take the numbers as you would, 6'3", 165. So there is a lot of filling out of that frame to do. So as he gets bigger and stronger and develops more, this is going to be, like we talked about, a great pick, a great player to build around for Rumu.
Dave, that's the difference between a U18 weight room and a major junior weight room. Standing by now.
Justin, another 6'3", 15-year-old next to me here, making me feel small. What were the thoughts that we had a double trade for this pick? Rimouski jumps up and selects you. How are you feeling?
Yeah, this is incredible. I've been a bit stressed when I said trade, but I want to thank you so much, my family, my friends, and my teammates. This is just that make me live moments like this.
Talk about your teammates there at Notre Dame, those beautiful gold helmets.
The other player that I thought about that obviously is going to go OHL route, but played in the Nova Scotia League is Sim's kid. Ewan Sim, comparatively to like the group here, I think Ewan Sim is probably a guy who would on top 5. Obviously, he's going to go to the OHL and play with, I think they're going to look to him with the London Knights next week when they do the OHL draft. But definitely an intriguing group that's available. The OHL draft this year, but I think Ewan Sim probably could have done really well in this draft. Probably would have been a top 5 guy in my view. Really good player as well. I really like his overall game, and I think comparatively he would have been a pretty high-end pick here out of his birth year. Just something I wanted to mention, but we're plugging along here. It's officially 2 hours in. I'm gonna get through the first round, and obviously there's the other draft and stuff is going to be tomorrow. What I'll do is I'll get through the first round, we'll do our best available, and then I'm probably likely going to jump off. I just think they're, I thought this would be a little quicker, but I figured that it wouldn't be just because of that's drafting. But we're plugging along here, trying to get through and hopefully finish the draft here before 9:30. John Neal said, 9 a.m. I think it is. Yeah. I'll be probably following and posting on my X feed or 2 through 15, and just giving kind of initial reactions. So, John, if you're not following me on there, if you don't have an X feed, it's all good. But I do post a little bit more on there too if you want to follow along. So, and that goes for anybody. That just doesn't go for John. A million trades and having everything to do in 2 languages. I know it is slowing this down because of that. It really is. Which, hey, it is what it is. But part of me thinks there's got to be a faster way to do this, right? There just has to be. Like, it's cool that it's like this. They do a great job, but it's got to be quicker, right?
Absolutely electric battery games at 7200, and it's a pleasure to see the team finally put their chips in this year. Yeah, again, for this is a team that the ownership group came in and they wanted to be made it known that they want a championship team. And as I think the three of us saw when this team made a very deep run in the playoffs, that town just became electric. And get excited, Eagles fans. It's going to be a real fun year in the Nest.
Three times in franchise history, they have found themselves.
Where Sherbrooke's actually making the pick here. It looks like they might be.
To make it to the finals in the 30-year history of this organization. For this Eagle brass right now, the chips are in the middle, but so many more chips in the East are in the middle. The interesting, of course, is in the second round of the Q playoffs, the teams reseed. So you are in a spot where you are fighting for absolutely every point to ensure you get yourself into first or second overall, no matter what. And that still,
Man, we are going slow.
Hey, Brendan, still a tough match.
Oh, is it ever? You got so many teams. Halifax won a big trade today, acquiring Matteo Norbert, one of the most skilled players in the league. So it's going to be very fascinating.
It looks like we're getting close here to Sherbrooke.
With the 9th pick of the first round, avec le 9e choix de la première ronde, le Phoenix de Sherbrooke. Temps d'arrêt, monsieur le commissaire. Vous avez 3 minutes. 3-minute timeout for Sherbrooke.
Jesus Christ. Seriously. Another timeout.
The 2-hour first round is out the window.
Yeah, the 9th time Atlantic.
We're at the halfway point of the first round. It's 9:18.
It's well, to be fair, 9:48 Newfoundland right now, correct?
Oh, buddy. Hopefully the YouTube channel, because the regiment. Stay tuned, fans. The regiment will get up to the podium, I promise, before midnight. But it's these timeouts we talked about. We see one, and Greg talked about it. There's potentially a juicy deal that has come across Sherbrooke's plate that is too enticing to glance over.
To give you,
We gotta limit some of these trades. I mean, this is ridiculous. Like, we're an hour and a half in here, and we have not even 9 picks. That's too long. I mean, it's not that deep.
15, Rouen again at 16, the St. John Sea Dogs.
There's just too much trade activity. Like, it's insane to me. Like, the OHL draft is going to go so much quicker just because of the ability to not have all these trades in the first round. Like, you get that done early and just get it over with, which I think is so beneficial.
The Spidey senses are tingling that there. Last year, one of the biggest spots was Ben Bitch walking onto the stage with the Newfoundland.
If you're, by the way, if you guys are following along, I'd like to know what team you guys are rooting for too. Obviously, if you're here for this specifically for the QMJHL draft, cool. If you're just here because you're a prospect follower, even better. But just wanted to check in and see who's from where and what teams you guys are following and watching. Feel free to put it in the chat.
Yeah, this is the point of the draft where this could go any which way. There's a lot of very talented kids that are still available. That Charbonneau has not gone off the board yet. Again, we talked about how Muskegon has his rights in the USHL. We see a potential deal here with Brzezinski talking this year, Brooks. Great work by our camera group. We talked about Charbonneau.
And Rimouski just picked. How are they going to do this again? Like, what are we doing?
We do see that this season with Quebec in the USHL could be a year of preparing for major junior to get yourself into the lineup with the kids. 100%. Again, so many talented kids available, whether it's him, Elliot Fauché, Elliot Tremblay. There's a lot of very talented players still available here that were ranked really high. Yeah, a lot of talent.
I got 76 for the CSR for Luke McGuire. That's way too low. That's crazy low. I can't believe that. I'm on my last leg of being a Rangers fan because I hate Drury. How he has been fired is beyond me, John. A lot of this is on him. I'm shocked that he's still got a job. I'll be honest. Dolan's honestly though, James Dolan's kind of an idiot. That's probably part of the problem.
Serge Beaufort, dépisteur, Jacob Melançon, joueur du Kraken de Seattle et ancien joueur du Phoenix, et Phil Wright, USA Scout.
It's interesting they're bringing up their USA Scout. Is this like Carter Felt maybe? Or Samuel Lee maybe? How he got the job is beyond me. Yeah, I agree, John. I don't know how he got the job either. It's pretty crazy that he is still employed. Honestly, like he should have been an AGM somewhere. Should have figured out something different, you know. All right, Sherbrooke's finally selecting here, so we'll see.
Sincerely thanks the beautiful city of Halifax and the Moosehead organization for their warm hospitality throughout the week. We also want to congratulate the Moncton Wildcats for another outstanding season and support them through their great loss. Et aussi féliciter les Saguenay de Chicoutimi pour leur conquête du trophée Gilles Courteau. So, to make the announcement of our pick,
God, what is taking so long?
Former Phoenix player.
I hope they. John says, I hope they trade Lafreniere to the Canadians, and then I make the switch too. I mean, yeah, they're a hard watch. Honestly, my buddy is a Rangers fan, and it's just hard to get into, right? Like. Who? Dude, what the hell is going on in this draft? I mean, Leduc's a good player, but my God, not a top 10 selection. What are we doing here in the queue? My God, man. Like, how is Max Bryan falling? It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Like, this kid is a bona fide top 10 talent. There's no reason why he shouldn't be picked. And obviously, I mean, Charbonneau not going so far is really fascinating. I think Charbonneau is committed to the USHL, and these teams know it. I would have thought for sure if he was going to make a move, it would have been right now. But I think he is committed to Muskegon, which, hey, you know, credit to him. You know, obviously, Danny Briere is his nephew, and I'm sure they want tabs on him in the U.S., and maybe that's the only real reason. So whatever it is, what it is. But how in the world was McBride not selected? I'm sorry, it's just crazy to me. That's ass. I'm assuming you're talking about the pick, or you're talking about the Danny Beer comment, which Danny Beer has his own controversy in his own right, right? I think he's a guy who I think deserves some criticism as well. Oh, you're saying Charbonneau going to the USHL? Part of me wonders with that, John, honestly, with Charbonneau, is I wonder if he just really enjoys being the big fish in the small pond, which developmentally, depending on how you go about it, if he's a guy who works real hard, it's not a bad thing. It just depends on what he wants. I guess it depends on how serious he is about his development, right? Which none of us can answer that, but I will say Muskegon is a really good program. I would put them up with some of the best programs in the queue in terms of what they offer for facilities and services. So, I think it's maybe it's just that and the fact they want to keep them in the U.S. I mean, that's really, to me, the only real reason. Because I think he would be an impact player in the queue probably next year even. But yeah, that's kind of my thought. I mean, I thought Boyer might have that as a situation too, but obviously he was committed to the queue, which credit to him. Obviously, that's why he went one. All right. Valdor now at 10.
And again, all you need to know about this kid's character and compete level is look at the way every draft pick won't go onto the floor as he came down. Well liked by a lot of his teammates. And we get a look at these brand new jerseys for sure.
All right, check these out. Kind of look like Tri-City Storm jerseys.
So it's tempting to know what came across their phone lines that had them second guessing.
Honestly, those Sherbrooke jerseys don't look cool at all. They look kind of dumb. I thought their old jersey was fine. What's wrong with their new jersey? John Neal says, I just don't know how there's no pride to stay in Canada. It's not like he has an excuse that he's going to the NCAA to get paid. You hit it outline. I do think with Charbonneau, like, he could have developed the same playing at the U18 level. I really do. I mean, I guess it's his prerogative to want to be closer to, Mount St. Charles is a hell of an academy, and obviously he really enjoyed his time there and, got to play with a guy. I think if Boyer didn't go with him, I don't know that he would have gone to the U.S. But yeah, it's interesting, right? Like the Q as a whole seems to have more of that issue than the Western League or the OHL. But I do think that's also growing in those other leagues too. Like I think the OHL does a really good job of retaining their top Ontario talent. And I think the Western League is doing a better job of that. But there is still going to be that intrigue of moving south of the border. And honestly, with some of these elite programs like Flex Academy, like Mount St. Charles, like Shag St. Mary, they're worthwhile programs to move for. They're excellent programs with great resources. And I mean, maybe that's the main reason. But they're, I understand your point too. I do. Yeah, they do. All right, let's get going here. We're only halfway through, guys. Only halfway through. Come on, Valdor. Let's speed this draft up, eh?
Well, this is definitely a team on the climb, and this is also a team that potentially got a very nice shot in the arm with the return of their star player Bayou, who's potentially defaulting on his year of jumping down south. So if he does, in fact,
Mickey says, "Hey, brother, what's up? Glad I caught the stream. Hey, glad you're on here, bud. I did some mock stuff earlier, Mick. I talked about Calgary. So I would check it at about like 10 minutes once you're done with the stream. Got some good stuff. I talked about Corrales. I talked about Bjork. Guys I think fit well. And then, I talked about some other things too. But check into that later on. But sorry I don't sound more energetic. I think our draft's been a little slow. So, but thanks for tuning in, bud. Glad you're in here, and hopefully the work day wasn't too bad for you, bud. Thanks. I'll definitely rewatch. I appreciate you, bud. All right, let's keep rolling here, people. We got 6 in the stream. Spread it around. All right, let's see. I think we got 10 going here.
Transaction avec Rimouski. Rimouski, vous confirmez? Confirmé. On vous attend en avant.
You're trading again.
Well, Rimouski clearly wanted someone at 9, and Sherbrooke was unwilling to deal, and that player is still there here at 10 that they really.
Is it Charbonneau? Or is it Brian? It's got to be Max Bryan or Charbonneau. Although, knowing the way this draft is going, I'm going to probably take like a goalie or something.
So, again, to your point, Greg, and I probably agree with you. Rimouski probably has a player in mind that they are deathly afraid it's not going to be available the next time they get to the podium. And I think it might, my spidey sense of thing, like, could be way off on this, but there might be a local kid around here that could be a play that they know won't get past Charlottetown. So this could be an interesting selection here.
Rimouski, again, they are slotted to pick in at 18 right now.
Hey, Mick, I mentioned earlier in the stream, too. I'm going to be doing a lot more clips of the Sleepers video I did last week or 2 weeks ago. Just some stuff with prospects. And then I'm going to do that scout video you mentioned probably 4 or 5 videos ago. I started on identifying like who I wanted to talk about, and I'm gonna probably put that out around draft time. So, Mick, thank you for the idea. It was a great idea, and I'm working on it. So I'll have it out here in the not too distant future.
Outside of them and maybe Ruin, there's not a lot of teams going for it.
All right.
Open Western Conference.
Winooski, can you just make the damn selection, people? Like, what are we doing?
Solid in the back end, so again, they've got some room to make some maneuvers here. But I tend to agree with the consensus on the panel.
And Charlottetown's up next after that.
Desperate to dig their claws into some prospect, and they want to get him now before he's gone.
You got the spidey senses going that it's local. We're going to find out. We'll go to Mario.
Alors, les Foreurs de Val-d'Or
All right.
cèdent à l'Océanique de Rimouski. Val-d'Or trades to Rimouski. Le choix numéro 10, première ronde 2026. Et le choix de numéro 204 de la 12e ronde 2026. Pick number 10 of round 1, 2026. Pick number 204, round 12 of 2026. En retour, l'Océanique said.
Mick, I'm going to answer that in a minute. I just want to see what they're going to say here, and then I'll. It's a good question.
First round, 2027. Et pick number 27 of 2026. Alors, Rimouski, vous avez le 10e choix de la première ronde. Oui, monsieur le capitaine. Alors, j'appelle sur scène le même groupe tout à l'heure.
It's like they're talking in slow motion. Sorry, Mick. 1 sec. I'm trying to see if I can get this through here.
Oceanic to the stage, second time tonight.
Hey, make the pick. Come on, Rimouski. You can do it. You can make the pick. All right.
Their first selection of the evening, where Oh, where are we going to see the Oceanic go with pick number 10?
All right. We're plugging away
Avec
here.
son deuxième choix, l'Océanic de Rimouski a fier de sélectionner. The Rimouski Oceanic are proud to select from Dartmouth, Max Bryan.
There we go. Common sense. Common sense.
We might be in Halifax, but the dark side representing Max Bryan. First
A kid. So the kid who just went, Max Bryan. He was my third overall guy in this draft. Very good selection, and really happy with that selection for Rimouski. Rimouski did a good job. I don't know why they didn't take him at 8. I think he's a way better player than Gagnon, but I digress. At least they didn't make the mistake and miss him. So that's a good selection there by Rimouski to get Max Bryan. This is a kid who's a very tenacious player, bigger frame kid at 6'2", already at 16. Good offensive game. The best kid from Nova Scotia out of this class, no question. Good for him. Good player. He'll be an impact player for Rimouski too. All right, so we're going, Mickey. I'm going to go to your question here, bud. So, someone who's unfamiliar with junior hockey, do these kids go to school, or they graduated? Do they get paid a salary? So, Mick, what they do is a lot of these kids, they grow up in their areas. So these kids are all going to be the 2010 birth year, so they're all 15 and 16-year-old kids. They're getting selected now by the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League teams to or Quebec Maritimes, whatever. There's a whole new name for it, but I just say it wrong anyway. They they just go through like normal school and everything. Some of them go and play for places like Stansted colleges, like an academy. Some of these kids do go to academies and play there and then go to school and play hockey at the same token. And then some of them just grow up in the Quebec under 18 circuit, or in the Nova Scotia under 18 circuit, or Newfoundland and Labrador has their own circuit as well for U18s. And those are kids are usually the ones that get selected in this draft. So they tend to be 15, 16. They go through high school still while they're playing in the QMJHL. They do get a stipend salary, and that varies depending on the team and stuff and what they're able to do. The higher end kids usually get a little bit higher stipend. Usually it's around a couple grand a year. Somewhere in that range, a couple $100 a month. Usually it's gas money, spending money, additional training costs if they want. That's usually how it works. And that's across the Quebec League. That's across Western Hockey, the Western Hockey League, and it's also across the Ontario Hockey League. So sorry for the lag there. I don't know what happened with my Wi-Fi. Hopefully you heard that, Mick. If not, let me know. But that's kind of how it works. So these kids will then play there usually until their draft year, and then normally happens is they go on and play after they're drafted in these leagues. But a lot of these kids that are high end end up going to college. So that's a new trend that's kind of developed over time. And that leads to some of these kids going on and doing more. So that's a very rough cut. There's a lot more to it, but that's a very rough cut of what it means. So thanks for that, Mick. For those that are interested, that's kind of how it works. So Mickey says, take your time. The draft's more important. I appreciate it, Mick. Is it like AAU basketball? It's similar. I would say that, like AAU basketball, they have kids that go and play in these, high-end travel teams. Like that happens in the summer for a lot of these kids. They go on and play at these really high-end tournaments over the summer. Many of these kids are playing upwards of 70 to 80 games a year. Some of them with the really high-end kids, maybe over 100, depending on how frequently they like to play. But yeah, it's in that vein, yes. So thanks for the question, Nick, as always. We're interviewing Max Bryan right now. So my best available kid right now that's still on the board would be my 5, and that's Domenico Borsellino. And then Zach Charbonneau is still available, and Damien Norris is still available as well. So I got 3 of my top 8 still available, which isn't bad considering it's pick 11. So obviously I didn't do a bad job identifying talent this year. So, we're going to see more picked here. Looks like the next pick is right now by Charlottetown, which they're a team that's on the up in the QMJHL. They're going to find their opportunity to maybe move up more in the board. And it looks like they're actually going to make their pick pretty early, which is tremendous for timing. Just waiting on hearing it. Come on, Charlottetown.
De la première ronde with the 11th pick of round 1, the Charlottetown Islanders. Oui, monsieur commissaire. It's a go. It's a go.
Thank you, Charlottetown.
Kevin Hill.
Let's get them up there and make the pick and speed this puppy up a little bit. All right, we got 6 on here. So hello, people that are new. What's going on? The recent pick was just Max Bryan, who was my 3rd overall best talent. So far, Shawinigan's taken my first 2. They, to me, are the king of the draft right now. They've been tremendous in terms of what they've done. Rimouski's been hit or miss. I don't really love their 8th pick, but I love the fact they took Max Bryan. Charlottetown. Part of me thinks this might be Elliot Fauché, which he's a really good defenseman. But I do think, it's either going to be Elliot Fauché or maybe Borsellino goes here. That's kind of my lean right now for one of the two. But we will find out here shortly.
I'd like to congratulate the Chicoutimi Sags on what a great season. We'd also like to thank the people, City of Halifax, and Halifax Mooseheads for extending warm maritime welcome to all the visitors here. So congratulations to you folks. And a shout out to our Islanders fans at home watching online or on Eastlink TV. It's going to be a good day. And we'd like to call on our head scout, Kevin Hill, to make our first selection.
All right, we're waiting here. Let's see. For those who jumped on, hello. Feel free to leave your questions in the chat too. Looks like Aslan Tremblay just went. This kid was pretty highly valued. I didn't have him. I could see why he was picked in the first round. I didn't have him in my rank personally, but not a bad selection. Big kid too, 6'1", 206. This is a pretty physically developed 15-year-old kid. Like, actually 16 now, but it's a pretty pro frame kid actually. All right, 2.5 in. I'm hoping we're here. We're going to be through 11. We only got 7 more picks here in the first round. So I'm hoping we can be done by 10. And, we'll keep plugging away here. But, yeah, if you guys want to talk NHL draft as well, we can talk about that on the side. If you want to talk more about the QMJHL draft, what my thoughts are so far, we can do that. You want to talk prospects in general, feel free to do so as well. But yeah, if you're new here, hello, welcome. It's a pretty welcoming group of people here. So got a few regulars that have been on through the stream, which is great. And, hoping to make more of those. So if you are interested in hockey, interested in the young prospects, interested in the future of hockey, do yourself a favor, please subscribe to the channel. No question's a dumb question. We can feel free to talk about whatever you want to talk about in the sport of hockey. We'll get into whatever we need to, and we'll keep grinding. But for the 26 draft, we can talk about that. We can talk about whatever you guys want. But you can be like Dane, who just put a comment in here in the chat, and we'll keep plugging away. So I'm gonna go ahead here and mention Dane's question. Do you think Sharks go Reed or Stenberg? I would, if it were me, I would go Stenberg, but I think they're actually going to trade it, Dane. I do. I have this inkling that they're going to trade. Could they use a guy like Chase Reed? For sure. But I just, part of me thinks the value is going to be too high. I think a lot of teams are going to be looking to bid up, especially with these defensemen. And my lean is that they're going to trade. That's my thought, though. Thanks for that, Dane. Appreciate it. Our junior leagues, Mickey says here, junior leagues regional only. Could a kid from Quebec play in the Western Hockey League, or does he have to play in the Q? Yes, for the most part. There's a couple of exception cases, but for the most part, the junior leagues are regional. So a kid from Quebec most of the time has to play in the Quebec League. There are some exceptions. One of them would be like if your dad played in like the Western Hockey League, for example, then you have the opportunity to play in the Western Hockey League regardless of where you're from. But you got to have some affiliation in some way in order for that to work. The other way it would work is like if you're a younger kid, like you moved at like 5 or 6, you're born in Quebec, but you've lived in the West for a few years or something like that. That sometimes is given some exception as well. So it really depends. Like one kid in particular that he's actually in this draft is Damian Norris, played in Ontario this year, but he's from Quebec. So you can go and play in other leagues, but as long as you're proven that you're in that jurisdiction in some way, shape, or form, whether it be birthright or some accentuating circumstance, that's usually how it works. And then like you always have the option, obviously, if you don't want to stay in the Hockey Canada system. A lot of these kids will go to the U.S. and play. So because they're a little bit more open. So that's an opportunity too, Mickey, that sometimes presents itself. And guys like the guy who went number 1 overall in today's draft, Boisvert, he's from Quebec, but he ended up playing for Mount St. Charles, which is located in Rhode Island. They're really high-end hockey academies, produce guys like Brian Leach, Brian Berard, Brian Boucher, and a lot of really good high-end talents that have gone on to play in the National Hockey League. So it really does depend, but for the most part, they're pretty regional. Thanks for that, Mick. Dean says, who do you like better, Malhotra or Bjork? Oh, Bjork all day. Bjork to me is the second most talented player in the draft. I think Stenberg translates a little better, which is why I have him higher. But Bjork to me is an unbelievably elite player. With Malhotra, I think there's a really good 200-foot player. I think he's somebody who's deserving of being in that top 10, 15 conversation. But I do think there's a bit of overcorrection with Malhotra. Really good skater. I don't know that the offense is as much as people think it is. I really don't. I don't see a guy scoring 70, 80 points a year. I could see Bjork doing that, but I don't. I think Malhotra is more of your middle 6, really dependable defensive center with the ability to produce offense if needed, but I don't see more than 60-point upside, which to me that makes the difference in my view and why I lean more Bjork. Dane says, yeah, I got to agree with Bjork. I have him third, marrying behind McKenna and Stenberg. I do too. I'm in the same boat. He's my 3, no question. I've had him pretty aggressively ranked compared to a lot of people. Dane, I know you've been following along. I've had him top 5 for the majority of the year, if not the whole year, actually. I just think there's so much to like with him. I think he's such a high IQ player, hardworking, diligent, very good in the corners, gets out pucks better than most. There is not a real weakness to him, and I don't understand why more people don't have him in their top 3 or 5. All right, Bacomo. Waiting for them to select. But yeah, keep going with the questions, guys. Helps eat up the time a little bit more, and we got more people jumping on, which is great. Love to see it. And again, feel free to stay on and ask questions like Dane and Mickey here. And John Paul has done a lot too. Like love the questions. Keep them running around. Mickey says, who's your Bjork comp? Max Pacioretty is a really good comp for him. A little more offensively gifted. But Max Pacioretty, when he was younger, was really gifted offensively. I would say Max Patch is a good one. Marcia So is a really good comparable for him too. Both hardworking guys that score in bunches. Really good player overall. I think Bjork has like just another ounce of IQ over those two.
but there's a really translatable player there. So yeah, I would say Pacioretty in his prime and Marchessault. Those are two guys that I think are good comparables for Bjork. Smaller, hardworking forwards with good IQ, scores the dirty goal, but it can also score with some skill. Thanks for that, Mick. And Bacomo looks like they're going to select. Holy French accent, man. Holy French accent. Tommy LaRue goes here. Again, another guy who I thought would have been a day 2 selection, but hey, good for him.
He is ranked early in the second round, but the scouting reports that I've read on this kid, don't be surprised if he sneaks into the first round. And through his work, through his dedication,
So Newfoundland is up now. We got 5 more picks remaining, which honestly cool. This draft is picking up a little bit, so I might be able to do a little bit more draft stuff afterwards, if you guys want me to.
Sometimes a little too much. Sometimes he gets a little focused on the net and wants to.
All right. We'll keep plugging along here, but more. I gotta ask: is that goal last night? Carolina got a gift. You asked me. Honestly, Mick, I missed it. I'm behind on it. I haven't really watched the Vegas Carolina series just because it just didn't. Honestly, it doesn't really get my goat. If I'm being honest. Let me take a look. I mean, we got time. Let me just take a look at it right now. What was it? The 3-2 goal? I heard about it, Nick, but I hadn't watched it. So I think it was a 3-2 goal, right? Something like that. Let me find out. Now you know you're gonna get my live reaction to it, which is cool. Let me get to it real quick. The scores. So why did I think the score was like 4 something? Yeah, 4-3. Okay. Yeah, this would have been the overtime goal, I'm assuming.
From the U18 level to the major junior level, it's yet to be seen.
It's all about that transition from U18 to U16 to major junior. Can these kids actually make that?
Sorry, I know this isn't making for good podcasting, but I just want to see the Jarvis's goal, right? Wasn't that the one that had the issue? This is counted. There we go.
To develop that player.
There's nowhere to go but up for the Baker Car this year.
All right, Mick, here's my thought initially. Honestly, I think that ref saw the puck moving the whole time and didn't call it because of that reason. I actually think that's a good goal. I think this is the goal you're referring to. Let me just look. Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's the goal you're referring to. My thing is, Mick, is this. Like, with those goals from Carolina, like, if the ref is looking at it and can see the puck moving, it's fair game in my view. Like, I don't mind if an official can see it and they're able to look and see that there never was covered. That being said, the thing I don't like when it comes to these goals sometimes is, like, sometimes your goals are like a little bit more like guys will have the coverage in the crease and it'll hold the puck a little longer. And when they get booted in, and sometimes when those count, I don't like those goals necessarily. But to me, the puck looks loose. And so I'm okay with it being a goal. because of that. And I think that's probably why the official made the call. That's just my guess. Thanks for that, Mick, though. Sorry, I missed that initially. My aunt says, who's my favorite aunt? Obviously, you're my favorite aunt, Nancy. That's funny. We're plugging along here, though. All right. Is Newfoundland going to make the pick here or what? What do we got going on?
Hopefully you guys along with other Regiment fans, because again, talked about it, they love the YouTube feed last year. Again, hopefully you're tuning in. Because your team is about to go on the clock. And what a season it was for the Newfoundland Regiment as well, because
All right, we are plugging along here. Let's keep it going, people.
at the box office. And for this club that has such a tie to military history, they're now in the running to host the Memorial Cup. They're looking 2028. And one of the guys that's going to be adjudicated, I think, might be he's ready for Newfoundland at the podium.
All right, Newfoundland looks like they're going to select here. I wonder if Borsellino is the pick. If not Borsellino, it might be Norris.
Squad that are coming home with pick number 13 of the first round, the Newfoundland Regiment. Yes, Mr. Commissioner. Thank you. So I call on stage to John Patton, owner, Jason Sharp, owner, Jeff Sharp, owner, Sean Keith, owner, Glenn Stanford, president, Gordy Dwyer, general manager and head coach, Sammy Mayers, head scout, and Paul Curie, senior advisor. Oh,
I'm going to get to this combo in a minute, guys. That's funny. I'm laughing at the comments right now. I'm going to get to them in a minute. I just want to see this pick.
The Jake's dinner is on. Right? Of course. I lived in Newfoundland for 7 years. All right. I've only been there for a weekend. It's a moose burger. There you go, buddy. Gotta get me those spots. I have a feeling we might have learned last year, but we live close to each other.
Come on, Newfoundland. Let's get this thing in order. All right, I'm just going to get to the comments because by the time I make the comments, they're going to make the pick. Mickey says, how many current Red Wings players can Aunt Lisa name? Don't call her out like that, Mick. Come on now. That's too funny. Oh, shit. Oh, God. The family has jumped in now. Oh, boy. This is going crazy here. All right, let's see. PCT. Hi, I'm giving up the TV so my hubby can watch you. You seem like a really nice guy, so I don't mind at all. You're new to the channel, so hello, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. I wonder if I know you. If I do, cool. If I don't, let me know. And my mom says Larkin is my favorite Red Wings. Thanks, Mom. Thanks for outing yourself there. That's my girl. Way to go, Mick. Yeah. And then, sorry, not Gordon. Sorry. No, you're good, bud. You're good, Mick. You're all right, buddy. All right, let's see here. Damien Norris went. So that's a good selection there. I like that for Newfoundland. I had Norris at 8. Like him. This is a kid who I just mentioned earlier, played in Ontario, from Newfoundland, though. And good for him. That's awesome. Really cool for him to be able to play for a hometown team. And Norris is a good player. That's a savvy selection by Newfoundland. Really like that selection. The comment section going nuts here. That's too funny. Well, Mick, thanks for the engaging with the fam. That's funny. Surprised they're still on here, honestly. It's a late night, but hey, get on them. Also, hi, Mom. Hi, Auntie. Thanks again, by the way. I didn't mean to brush off that comment. Thank you for that. All right. Let's plug along here.
I'll tell you how. You mentioned everything about this
player about Norris and what he's great. I want to give a kudos to the Newfoundland Regiment staff. A, their head scout made the pick, which is the way it should be, in my opinion. Number two,
To be clear, PCGTS. Way to clarify, Nick. Thank you for that. That's too funny. But hey, yeah, kudos to her though for letting her husband do that. That's awesome. It's always nice when you have supportive spouses, right? And actually, PTS, I'm gonna call you out here. Let him subscribe. Get him on here and have him subscribe to the channel if he's not already. You know, I will say Newfoundland's roster is looking super solid going into next year. I really like their group. You know, I think there's a really solid group of players here.
She match in with this lineup right now. I think he slots into their middle six next year, no questions asked.
So you got here, let's see, they're gonna have a kid who
Another homegrown talent to come back to Newfoundland, and I'm sure
they're probably gonna get Zubik back. Liam Arsenault is a good player. Ben Veach is a stud. He's a good player as well. They're gonna get Fenwick McLean next year. I really like man, they got a good group. They really do. Madi Shanchali, I like him too. Yeah, they're gonna be a good team. That's good stuff there.
That's how you draw it, right? I mean, what are you feeling?
Yeah, just super proud to be able to go in my hometown of St. John's and to be able to play in front of my family and friends is definitely a special feeling for sure.
67 points in 56 games last year at Upper Canada College. What kind of player can the Regiment fans expect to be getting here?
All right, we got 5 more picks remaining.
Damien, we're looking forward to it. Enjoy the kitchen party at the Mary Brown Center.
Thank you.
PCGTS Sporty says, Marty sub, I'm on the account on the TV. Good lucks. Good lucks. Appreciate you. Thank you.
Like, my goodness. And I know in the running is Moncton, the Wildcats, I believe.
The Ram
Quebec and Gatineau. So right there, it
All
really
right,
is.
we're rolling along here, trying to do our best to get this stuff through the rest of this draft.
When Halifax hosted the event here now,
At least they picked it up a little bit. It was slow going for a minute. Keep asking along, people, by the way. If you guys have any questions, you know, the chat's going, which is cool. Appreciate it. And no questions, a dumb question. Obviously, had a fun little interlude there with my family and the commenters. Super much appreciated. And
St. John Sea Dogs.
keep plugging along here.
Trade with Quebec, Mr. Commissioner. Which team? Quebec.
Quebec's getting the trade here now for the selection. Now, where you be going?
Okay, so this is going to be a ball shell trade. So Brian Mulwalter. Quebec had to find a first-round pick in this draft to give to Chicoutimi as compensation. They had to do it, or else they would have forfeited a season, believe it or not. That's how serious it was.
Wow.
Chicoutimi is going to then flip that pick to Baker Hall. So pick 14 will end up in Baker Hall eventually here. Now, as for this trade that's going on right now, this is going to be a massive bombshell trade. Again, I'm just trying to prove my report. Defenseman Thomas Charbonneau and Ryan Howard are going to be going to St. John. Thomas Charbonneau was the 4th overall selection last year in this draft to Quebec. And this is going to be an absolute bombshell trade. We met St. John wants to compete. They want to go for it this year. They saw the trade the Eagles made. They saw what Halifax did. They already got the loss, and now they're saying it's our turn. Yeah, exactly. And they're going to add a massive piece on that back end, like you talk about, Greg. Sly, the Eagles ownership group have made it very clear.
There's the fiance right there. Larkin, don't break up with us. Yeah. That whole Larkin situation's interesting. Part of me wonders if there's a lot more that we don't know. I really think there's more to the story here.
That's the way I can describe it. And we have not even added Moncton into the equation. So for a while, guys, we had a
Thanks, buddy.
Gardner McDowell
That's
earlier
funny.
today, compiled a report to say,
All right. We're so close here. We are so close. We only got, what, 5 more picks left? Yeah, 5 more picks. We're just waiting on the group here.
the amount of playoff games we had in the last 2 games, it's the reason why we
By the way, honey, I don't know if you missed the comment earlier. There's somebody that's on here that's letting their husband watch on the TV and they're subscribed. So you have fellow women that are in here that let their husbands do this crazy shit. So I appreciate that. But just an FYI, you're not a party of one.
That leaves the United States and it's in Moncton. They're going to continue to load that train up as it crosses the border as they build it off. Is that a via rail or is that Amtrak? What a curiosity. And while we're on the topic of Moncton, I do want to send our condolences on behalf of the entire Irving family on the passing of Robert J. Irving. And again, what a gentleman and what a stalwart for junior hockey in this region. Junior hockey.
All right, we're plugging along here. We got 6 on here. We're just waiting for this trade to get figured out. It's going to take forever. Already know it.
Mr. Irving would come out of a meeting and say, guys,
And it's the whole family brigade here.
spoke for 7 hours.
You don't got to out yourselves, people.
About energy across the world.
Go Penguins, hockey girl power. There you go, right? That's too funny. We're a Wings household, though, so that's an awkward moment for us. But hey, anybody that supports the channel is a good stuff. I did see that hockey center, ladies. We are the real MVPs.
St. John Sea Dogs trades to the Québec Ramparts. Les Sea Dogs échangent au rempart le choix de la première ronde numéro 14 2026. First round pick of 2026, number 14. En retour, les remparts cèdent aux Sea Dogs. Ramparts trade to the Sea Dogs. Thomas Chaponneau, Ryan Howard, et la deuxième de choix de deuxième ronde 2026, numéro 31. Second round 2026, pick 31. Québec, vous avez donc le 14e choix de la première ronde. Transaction pour ce commissaire avec Chicoutimi. Avec Chicoutimi, vous confirmez? Confirmé. Merci. Amenez les papiers devant, s'il vous plaît. Transactions.
It's okay. Detroit is where I'm from, so it's cool. Yeah, I grew up in the town where he's from, actually, so that's funny. And then my fiance says, to be fair, I'm a Mo Sider household. Yeah, you are. Uh-huh. Gotta peel her eyes off the TV once the Wings are on. Oh, all right. Let's get going here. We got 9 on here, so that's awesome. Appreciate you being on here, peeps. All right, we got Shakuni. These trades are killing me. These are confusing. I don't know what's going on, but there's a ton of trades. Obviously, so the one interesting wrinkle to this, for those that aren't aware, Quebec because of the conditions of a certain trade, they had to acquire a first-round pick, or in the unique circumstance, which I've never heard of this before, but this must be a thing. If they didn't acquire a first-round pick in this draft, they would have had to forfeit the rest of their season, which is a completely new phenomenon for me. And I've been watching hockey for 20 years now. That's a new one for me. But they made it work, and now that's being traded on to somebody else in order to fulfill that requirement. Seems ultimately way too confusing. Even for me that loves following this stuff, it's just like incredibly confusing for no reason. So now we have Chicoutimi selecting for whatever reason. And yeah. So that's where we're at. So we're waiting on this stuff to go.
And then let's roll here with the rest.
Alors, let's go to Paul said au Saguenay. Québec trades Kuchikutimi. Le choix de première ronde numéro 14, 2026. First round pick 2026, number 14. En retour, les Saguenayens cèdent au rempart. In return, Chicoutimi trades to Québec. Choix de troisième ronde 2027. Choix de quatrième ronde 2027. Third round pick 2027. Fourth round pick 2027.
What the hell is going on?
Chicoutimi, servi le 14e choix de la première ronde. Transaction avec Bécombo. Bécombo, vous confirmez?
Are they trading it again?
Amenez les papiers.
So it just got traded again for like the third time. Now Bacomo is being the selection here, which I don't know what the fuck's going on. It's weird. Alrighty. So she said, "Is that legal? Forfeit the season?" Apparently, it is. I've never heard of that before. That's a new one. It must be due to the fact that like you have to honor your trade obligations. That's why I'm assuming that's the case. New one for me though. Never run into that before. But yeah, I thought the same thing. Very odd that that's the thing, but I guess it is. Yeah, it would be nice if we ended all these trades. We would have been done like an hour ago if we fucking ended these trades. This is nuts.
It is, we have on there needs, for security, and Dave Frank, you put down one word for what the Saguenay need now. Everything. Everything.
Okay, can we make a selection here? This is nuts. We've literally gone like 20 minutes here and there's been no selection. And we only got 5 more left for the night, so it's not like we're doing anything crazy here. Also, love seeing new people in the chat. This is awesome. Great to see it. Keep growing this thing out. We're almost there. I got a couple new subscribers from tonight, so that's appreciated. She says, "Is the French rate of exchange for picks different than the U.S.?" Apparently, it is. That's a good one. Apparently, it is. I don't know if the French are a little bit slower, and it's just like the currency where the U.S. is better than Canada. I don't know. Very odd situation.
First round pick number 14, 2026. Third round pick number 46, 2026. Soit le troisième ronde numéro 46, 2026. Et soit le quatrième ronde numéro 64, 2026.
Dane, I see that question. I'm going to get to it in a minute. I just want to figure out what's going on. Can you make the damn pick? Is this real? Did they just trade it again? This is like the 4th time this has been traded. I get this is a weak draft class, but what the hell is going on right now? Dude, what the hell is going on in the QMJHL draft right now? This is nuts.
What is going on here? It's incredible. I thought we did the boomerang trade in this league. Like, what is happening here? Is it a boomerang trade for Keith's ball? Wow. You're telling me they just got Connor Sharman and Ryan Howard end up keeping that pick. That is great work.
That's incredible. There's no Tim laughing right now. Oh, boy. Wherever he is, because he is not on this draft floor. Incredible. I don't think have you ever in your history of watching draft on any level seen a pick go from one team to another, and to another, back, around the original team? Hey, Delvin, imagine Doug Henning right there. Oh my goodness. And life is a full circle. I'm telling you right now, the kids have no idea what Doug Henning is. The Quebec grandparents must be like, what just happened? We thought we got it from St. John because they are one of those teams that Quebec.
Yeah, this is some weird shit going on with this draft. I've never heard of this before. This is nuts. It's like traded 4 or 5 times. The original team that had the pick has gotten the pick back now. So I don't know what the fuck's going on with this draft, but it's nuts. This is crazy. All right. I don't know where you go from here. We'll go to Dane's question, I guess. What is your top 3 for the OHL draft? Just players from Ontario. So OHL draft-wise, let me pull up my board real quick on my end. If I were to do this upcoming draft, just Ontario kids only, I would be giving you these 3 names. Let me just get there. My one. Yeah, if we're just doing Ontario kids only, we're not including the U.S., we're not including anything like that. My one would be Nanabai. I think he is my best player of the 2010 class for Ontario. I think the kid's a stud. Really like his overall game. I think he's a really good skater, excellent accelerator, good hands, at high speed as well. I just think there's a lot of really high-end junior habits that he exhibits, and some things he's got to work on to be a better effective pro, but I like him at 1. My second best would be Lachlan Whelan. I know he didn't have the greatest OHL Cup, but I watch him play, and every time I watch him, he's just so smart. Just such a really advanced player for his age. I really like his overall game, and I think there's a lot to like there. And then my third pick would be out of the grouping of Ontario kids would be Roman Van Acker. I really like Roman Van Acker a lot for very similar reasons to Lachlan. I think Whelan does it a little better than Van Acker does, but they're very, very close for me. Those would be my 3. If I'm going to do just Ontario kids, I think Drew Daly is better than all 3 of them, and I think I would have him as my 1. If that's the decision where he decides to go to the OHL, which may or may not happen. I would argue that Ewan Sim has got a lot to do with it. Who's a guy who, if you're going non-Ontario, I think Ewan Sim is a guy who probably should fit in the first round in some way, shape, or form. So that's my thought there. And then Dane, let me get to it. I just want to hear this, whatever the hell is going on with this trade, so I can figure out what's going on.
Round 8, number 181, 2026. St. John Sea Dogs, you have pick number 14 of the first round. Yes, Mr. Commissioner. Thank you.
Hallelujah. Somebody saves the pick. Somebody is actually making the selection. It only took 40 minutes for that to happen.
Trevor Georgie, President and General Manager.
Jesus Christ, that was nuts. That was an insane sequence that just happened.
After it all, the St. John Sea Dogs are picking at 14. After all that circumstance, the team that originally had the pick that gets it back. You know what I was waiting for? That 8th round selection was the hang-up.
For me, I have Tanner Adams at 1. What do you think of him? Part of me with Tanner Adams thinks he is what he is. I don't know that he'll develop more. So I'm not as high on him as others are. That being said, he's a very good player. I just don't know. To me, he profiles as one of those guys that got really physically developed at an early age and is going to be a fine player, but I don't know if there's more to unlock with Tanner Adams. That's just my view on him. But he is very highly thought of. So I'm not as bullish on him as most are. He's still definitely a first-round candidate, no question. I think he's a very viable and good OHL hockey player. I just think there's limits to what the upside is comparatively to some of these other kids that are a little more raw. So that's the reason for that, Dane.
By the way, Halifax is the #1 city in Canada today. That should be known.
Okay, dude, can we just make the selection? It's been 72 hours since the last pick. What are we doing here?
Halifax is proud to select Lawrence.
Lawrence Williams goes, pretty good defenseman. One of the higher end defensemen that was eligible in the draft. I didn't have him as high as this, but I had him being a pretty high day 2 pick. So not a bad selection here. I don't mind that for St. John at all. All right, 4 more left in the first round, so we're plugging away, but yeah, we're just trying to working through and doing what we can here.
And again, this kid is so good, so fluid. Loves jumping up in a play. He runs offensive plays. Don't take my word for it. Take Alvin's word as head coach said no. He's a strong skater, aggressive defender. His flows speed quickly and plays with the fight. Also brings a lot of offensive upside. With the love.
All right, Mickey says, which QMJHL team best develops players in your opinion? Halifax is one that really does a nice job. They've developed guys like Jakub Voracek, Nikolai Ehlers, Nico Hishe. You can go back ways like Daniel Briere, I believe, played for Halifax. They're kind of an institution in the QMJHL. St. John's has had some good success with some guys as well, like Jonathan Huberto is a guy who's played really well for them. Nathan Boyou. Alexis Joseph is a guy who probably will develop into a really good National Hockey League player. Those two really stick out for me. Quebec has always had really good talent. Alex Radulov was a superstar for them for the Q. Nikita Kucherov played for Quebec back in the day for about a season and a half. Mikhail Grigorenko was a really good player as well. I mean, Nathan McKinnon for Halifax. How did I miss Nathan McKinnon? Thank you, John Neal. That was just really big miss for me. Jonathan Duran also played for Halifax. Thank you, John. How the hell did I miss that? But anyway, I digress there. Miranda passes? They just straight passed on their pick? This is the weirdest draft in a long time. How did they pass on pick? That St. John's jersey is pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie. It's pretty sick. Is that really okay? I don't know. This draft is one of the weirder drafts I've ever covered. I've been watching drafts for a long time. The 4 trade draft pick thing was crazy. Somebody getting their season threatened for not getting a pick is insane. Normally guys pass, but like not in the first round. That's nuts. I really feel like they don't value this class like at all. It's really weird. And I don't either, but like the pass on your first round picks like a next level of crazy that I would have never expected.
feel on top of the world right now. It's a pretty cool feeling. I got to thank my family and my friends and my coaches. Anyone who's helped me along the way, it's amazing, and I'm so grateful to be drafted by this great organization.
And you're doing it close to home. You think your friends, your family, you're standing behind us here. You quite the roar when your name got picked. What has this week meant to you?
No, it's amazing. I'm so grateful for it. It's pretty cool to get all these guys to come to the draft.
Well, Lawrence, I think they want your autograph. I'll let you go sign it. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
All right.
We got the home stretch where Greg McDonald says there's no shenanigans.
Nikki says, haha, they looked at the board and said, nah. Apparently, what a weird sequence. My answer is Matthew. You will always be my favorite hockey player. Oh, thanks. Thanks, Auntie. Too bad I'm busted up and don't play anymore. But thank you for the compliment, Auntie. That's appreciated. It's disrespectful. Yeah, the pass like that is extremely disrespectful. But now it looks like it's off. It looks like there was an error. I don't know. Usually they don't do that though. That's weird. Unless they're testing the pass, which is possible. There'll probably be some passes like tomorrow late, which I'm not gonna cover because it's not really worth my time to cover it. But yeah, it's a very odd situation there. Still got 4 picks remaining. I'm probably gonna be on here till about 10-ish, just because of the way the pacing is going right now. What a weird draft. This is a weird draft. I'm glad I covered it. I mean, I'm glad I watched it. This is a very odd sequence that's going on right now, but it's kind of what makes junior hockey very cool. These weird little nuances that you can learn and other people may or may not know or follow along with you. And then when you meet somebody that actually knows what's going on, it's a weird bond you form. Hence the reason for this channel.
Bank Center as we are getting ourselves ready for the home stretch for the first round of the QMJHL draft. Lawrence Williams second, Nova Scotia.
All right, let's keep plugging along here.
St. John after a bevy of trades and an exciting 14th pick, which has us ready for the 15th.
Oh, are we making this 15th pick here?
Told us that a massive trade was coming at 14. He did tell us that it would take us around the merry-go-round multiple times before we finally landed on it. But what activity here on the draft floor in Halifax? Oh, that's a moment that should be replayed over and over and over again. Yeah, when they advertise this draft, this play, that'd be like, are you not entertained?
Well, yeah, it's entertaining to a point. It's weird that you have 4 trades in a row. It kind of slows the draft down. I don't think it's that entertaining. You're talking about on the Eastlink feed, like that. Oh, how cool is this? We had so many. Well, yeah, it took 45 minutes for it to make a selection. It's nuts. It's not really fun.
Was say, let's go. You know what he's saying right now? Hey, let's go. Well, the biggest cheer of the night was when they finally.
Sorry, I didn't mean to do that, peeps. All right.
With pick number 15 of round 1.
Here we go. We are making selections. Can they make 16 while they're at it since they're picking next anyway? Borsellino is the top kid here on my board. Wonder if he'll go here. So nope. Right now it's Borsellino, Charbonneau, and my next highest rated guy is Carter Felt, who's an American kid.
Number 15. As we see Steve Hartley
for a Memorial Cup winning Halifax club head coach here with the Huskies. What need are you thinking we're going to see them address?
Well, they just addressed it at the very top end of the deck in this draft, taking the very skilled, very offensively dynamic Thomas Boisvert with the number 1 pick. They just traded Malo, so there might be a need at the goaltending position.
Oh, they went and got the goaltender, Zach Lanace. This kid was one of the top goaltenders for this draft. So, to be honest, I don't think he's a first-round player, but he's a good player nonetheless. I think he probably could have gone in the 3rd round, maybe. But hey, they needed a goalie. They got a goalie, right? And he's a late born 2010. So for those that don't know, kids who are like after September 15th of a birth year tend to go in the later draft year. So if you're for this kid, most kids in this draft are 2028 NHL draft eligible. This kid is actually 2029 draft eligible. So you get a full another year with him. So that's a unique variable to this whole thing as well.
Absolutely. He has been hands down the number 1, like you guys talked about, the number 1 goalie prospect in this draft class. The only one who was ranked by the CSR in the 1st round. Probably has the best technical foundation for a goaltender in this draft class. Very quick, very fluid movement across that crease. Greg, you talked about it. A TELUS Cup champion. You see, he's getting some love there from the guys who have already had their names called.
We got 3 more picks left.
Easily be a starter in this league, probably sooner than a lot of people think.
Mickey says, I just traded my hockey guy sub for the 2026 in hockey podcast. Hey, he's a good sub, though. Hockey guy's a good sub. Don't make it. I don't want it to be a competition. That he's done very well for himself, and I'd love to be him one day. That's for sure. I'd love to be able to just get paid to, talk about hockey. Working on it though. But thanks for that, Nick. That's funny. Flattered though. I appreciate that.
Exceptional rebound control. Bruin have found their goalie of the future, and like I said, I think he might be their goalie of the future quicker than some people think. I think so too. And his athleticism as a goalie is so impressive. He reminds me a lot of Zach Vitale when he came out in U18. Just super athletic, a little unorthodox, but he's the one that.
All right, we're plugging here.
Deep level off the sharp. Zach Vitale as well from this building. And now Lion is trapped in the KHL. A big reason for their success in the playoffs as well. But again, we talked about Ruben so good at drafting.
All right, we're plugging.
Any other team get a sniff of it. But first, Bruin has to trade it 3 times. A bit of magic, yeah. Again,
All right, we're 6 down, people. We got some people still in here, which is great. Appreciate those that are on here and tuning in.
Find his way down to speak with Pete Robertson, and he's talking to goalies.
All right, let's see. We're plugging here. Come on, people.
We have a goalie off the board. Our first goaltender taken with the 15th pick. Zachary, tell me how you're feeling right now, and what were your most favorite games of?
Very incredible. I love my road. It's incredible to describe it.
Lost for words. That's okay too. Now, Zachary, you're fresh off a run to nationals. 920 save percentage there. How do you think that prepares you to maybe jump into major junior next year?
Sure that I'm prepared to jump to the next level, but I gotta work on some things, and I will work this summer.
Long off season of hard work coming up, Zachary. Congratulations. Enjoy.
Thank you.
it took them so long to pick 15. You think they just know their next pick already? Just saying, you are speaking the gospel, right? You'd think it'd be a little quicker, but apparently not. Only 3 more remaining though, and then I'll get into more like Q&A stuff later if you guys want to stick around. I'm not going to go too long, but I'll go a little bit. I'll probably end it at like the 4-hour mark.
As a coach, I love players that know how to win. I love players that are gamers. He kept close to the responses easily as a goalie, which is so hard to find. And when you can find it, you make sure you bottle up and bring it to your team because you need to have solid goaltending in this league. You look at Lucas Beckman, best goaltender in Canada, and the price that the Eagles paid to have him come to Cape Breton, and he was a massive reason why the 52nd inning were able to capture that championship again for the Moncton Wildcats. That wrote since 1994. Cool, long time. You know the saying in coaching, you show me a good goalie, I'll show you a good coach. That's always been the saying. You have a good goaltender, it solves a lot of your problems.
All right. Miranda, are you asleep at the wheel? What's going on here?
Good team build from the back end out, and really
bonkers.
Kind of do that again as well. So, and we've also talked about a good development program there in Northern Quebec. So exciting things coming down the pipeline for a team that really had a very quick retool. Don't call it a rebuild. A very quick retool on the fly. They will be very competitive next year. And Rouen still on the clock here at pick number 16. We've got Rouen, Bakemo, and Rabuski. By the way, that 14th pick was actually traded 5 times. It's already been Victoriaville tonight. And not traded the same time. Lucky number 14. Lucky number 14 will throw it up to the podium with Mario Cicchini. With pick number 16 of round 1. Le choix numéro 16 de la ronde numéro 1, les Huskies de Rouen-Noranda. Oui. Alors, le même groupe, s'il vous plaît, donnez-moi un point sur 5.
Okay. So we're doing like a moment of silence or something just to delay the pick even further.
But now, back up to the stage, go to Huskies. That's cool song will haunt a lot of Bruce fans forever. Well, it played here for their Memorial Cup, and they heard it a lot. Miranda Huskies working on a sponsorship with Fitbit. Can't believe they had to all leave then come right back up. Exactly. Go get in the steps, gentlemen. That's right. They want to walk that carpet just like you.
Hey, come on, people.
Well, the one around the sélectionné des entreprises de Magog, allez, all right, now it's Tremblay now.
Malik Tremblay. Okay. It's a decent pick. Not a bad selection there, actually. I think he was a guy who was on the fringe of my first round. Don't mind that selection at all. We got 2 more remaining here, and then it'll be quick, hopefully, after these. But Magog is such a funny city name. Yeah, it is, right? It's up there with I always like saying Chateauguay. I don't know why, it's just hilarious to me. Or a lot of those Quebec cities, they all have their different pronunciations that are interesting to pronounce for sure. All right, we're plugging along here. All right.
stocking the cupboards up front looking for some offensive.
So we got Bacomo now and Rimouski. So it should be interesting to see. Rimouski, I think, might go and take Borsellino with that last pick. And then I'm really kind of shocked. There's a couple guys here that I thought would have been for day one picks, but we'll see what goes on here for the next little bit here. I think it could be anything here. Fauché is a guy I thought would have been selected by now, Elliot Fauché, but he might be selected in the next couple picks here. We'll see. But yeah, if you guys are on here, feel free to throw any questions in the chat. We got a couple minutes here, and they're going to probably take their sweet time. So if you have any questions, regardless how they are, throw them in there.
Maybe not even a top six, maybe a top player in this league.
All right.
Second Tremblay taken in the first round as well.
No L'Italiens yet.
No, there will be L'Italiens. It's not the cube, there's no L'Italiens.
All right.
He plays a lot bigger than the size listed in the program. I can tell you that right now. And the stride is one of the things that really catches your eye with Malik Tremblay. He's going to get back on that back check. You talk about the play away from the puck. He loves to go after it. He loves chasing the 200-foot game. You don't want to be chasing the game, but he's chasing it for spot. 100%.
All right. Are we getting to a pick, please?
Malik, our first member of
No.
here tonight.
Dang it all to heck.
What are your thoughts and your feelings? Hear your name called, and you come on down, put on the Husky shirt.
I mean, it's unreal. Be here with my family and my friend. It's an unreal moment, and that's it.
Husky said back-to-back picks here. They chose you. You're heading to a team that's in their championship-winning window right now. How exciting is that?
It's exciting. I can't wait to get started and know more about the city and everything.
Malik, congratulations. Enjoy tonight.
All right, we're 8 strong here, peeps. Let's keep rolling here. Appreciate those that have stuck on as long as they have. It's been a little bit longer than I was expecting, but hey, it is what it is, right? I'm covering the draft.
Coming in here. English is not their first language, obviously, except for the Maritimers. And then there's Newfoundlandish. We'll talk about that later. It just shows you how committed these kids are to religion and they move on their careers. They'll play outside, go back. So I do think there's a big part of that has to do with kind of of hockey as a game. It's high performance camps every second weekend, and you are always on the road and always on the go in different cities and in different areas of the country. Well, I can tell you now that a lot of the Q teams now run their practices in English. They don't do it in French anymore. And their high performance programs in Quebec are taught in English because they know their kids are going to other spots in the world. So good on them. There's one hockey market that speaks French in the National Hockey League. Montreal. You're making Montreal great. If it's 31 others, you're probably going to need a little bit of English. And guess what? If you're really good at hockey, they don't care if you're American or anything because they love them.
Oh, it's fun, and to think these players are getting drafted at such a young age, such focus and drive. Yeah, it's unbelievable, right? I wish I was as talented as some of these kids were at the same age. Like, I was just a dorky-looking kid who played roller hockey growing up. So, for me, the ice hockey opportunity wasn't necessarily there. But it's cool to follow. And being a hockey obsessive, it's just fun to watch these kids' journeys, and knew that you knew a little bit more of their chapter than the average person would. And that's kind of why I did the channel, because it's so fun to follow and capture the moments of these kids. These kids live their dreams, right? It's a pretty awesome situation to watch and look at. Enzo Roy was a selection here. I don't actually know much about him, if I'm being honest. But happy for him to be a first rounder. That's a pretty cool accomplishment, and credit to him. Then we got one more selection. It said 9:30 earlier. Probably going to be 10, but not terrible. So we got Rimouski's the last selection here. And then they're going to pick up tomorrow at 10 a.m. Atlantic time, which I believe is 9 a.m. Eastern. But I won't be on here. So I will be probably following that from afar.
He wants to go and he goes fast. This kid's skating is so dynamic. We talked a lot about Lawrence Williams skating. This kid's skating is even better. This kid can fly down the ice. It is a treat to watch. And he wants to go and he wants to play north in a hurry. This is the second player.
6:45 here, 97 degrees. Is that Fahrenheit? 97 degrees Fahrenheit? Damn. That's awesome.
And Enzo is definitely one of them. You guys touched on it, right? Great skating, mobile defenseman, high hockey IQ, small in stature, but really makes up for it with his hockey smarts and intelligence. Knows the game very, very well. We see it here in his highlight pack. Again, really likes to get to that middle of the ice, find those shooting lanes. He does have some offensive upside.
All right, let's check it out.
And again, this is the guy who was listed in the second round. It's the second pick for Bécamo, where they kind of went off the board, if you would, air quotes, taking two kids who were ranked in the second round of the CSR list. But a lot of the scouting reports on Enzo are don't be.
She says, yes, but I have brownies, the legal ones. It's too funny. It's legal where I'm at. That's too funny, though. I'm starving, so that was kind of rude to say that. I'm starving right now, actually. All right, let's plug along here. Just one more pick, peeps. One more pick. Time of the stream where I ask again. Anybody has questions, feel free to be like our fellow people here and ask any questions that you have. You know, we can talk about draft. We can talk, fundamentals of hockey. We can talk whatever you guys want. Just helps to kill the time. So if you can do so, do so. If you don't feel like it and you want to watch in secret, I'm not going to judge.
So I'm going to start off by asking the same question I just asked Zachary. You're fresh off a run to the national championship. How do you think that prepared you this year to make the jump next year?
I think it's what a great, how would I say, great obstacle, to
this poor kid barely speaks English.
QMJHL and get my team there.
Give him credit, though. I'd be having a hard time with it being my second language back then.
What advice did he have for you coming in today?
We don't care about the rank. Just, get ready for the camp and make your play there.
Enzo, congratulations. Enjoy Big Mo.
Thank you.
All right, let's see. As soon as they phrased, the guy starts speaking great English, right? Yeah. It's funny how that works, eh? Mickey says, they've never played hockey. Why are right-hand defensemen so valued? What makes them so sought after? Honestly, it's just the angles in which you can do stuff. Like being a right-handed defenseman, you open yourself up to the rink so much more than you do as a lefty. And I know that's a crazy, I know that's an interesting look, but it just seems like you do have so much more ability to do more, because when you're a lefty on your backhand, your back's turned to the ice in a way that's not conducive, where at least when you're right-handed, you can kind of angle it a little differently. And honestly too, like, I don't know why, like, it's weird that there are so many lefty defensemen. I've never understood why that is the case. But as a righty, though, you just get so much more opportunity to kind of move around. And, usually if you're a righty, you can play on your offside. Lefty, it's a little bit harder because you're not always angled the way you want to. And it just makes more sense as a right-handed defenseman. So that's kind of why. But also it's a scarcity thing with right-handed defensemen. It's more people are prone to be left-handed for whatever reason as a defenseman, and it's just always been the case. So, but that's the real answer there. So thanks for that, Mick. That's a good question. All right, Ramuski, put us to bed here, eh? Let's get us finished here with the draft, and then we can talk more Q&A stuff for a little bit, and then I'll probably head out in 15 minutes or so. Oh my God, they're calling. Who are they calling?
Pick number 18 and last of the first round avec le choix numéro 18 et dernier de la première ronde, l'Océanique de Rimouski.
Oh my God, another trade. Okay, another trade. As if we haven't had 80,000 in this draft. Bay Como now gets the selection, and they look like they're gonna make the pick. So it, for the love of God, can you just make the pick? This is nuts.
Let's see if you guys can work something to get it back into the whole New Brunswick stuff now. They took the DJ's words to heart that we're not ready to go. So we're going to see one more transaction. Well, I can see around the facility, there's a lot of folks that are ready to go. Guys, you want to stick around and make sure you see this. This could be moving around. Are we going to get the big dice? That is yet to be decided. Oh, I think maybe it looks like Bacomo is going to be happy with the deal.
Oh my God. Okay, are we making the selection? We're making the 87th trade of the draft. This is nuts. They're honestly, like, given what's happened, they have to set a rule in place to limit this trading. Like, I don't know how you can continue to do this and think it's a good idea. Like, that's I just slows the draft down, and it's like a kind of a distraction to the kids in my view. Like, these kids want to be selected, they want to have the moment. Like, they're already nervous. Like, why are we doing this? Like, it just doesn't make any sense.
Watch the highlights. I'm sure I can bring them up on the Twitter. Find those back in the day. Maybe you find them on YouTube somewhere. Who knows? Yeah. I mean, the tough part was, Dave, you weren't even there. We're going to go to Mario Cicchini for the details of the transaction. Maybe. Right? Come on, Mario. Oh, here he goes. Alors, Rimouski, échange à Bacomo. Rimouski trade to Bacomo. Le choix numéro 18 de la première ronde 2026. Pick number 18 of round 1, 2026. Bacomo envoie à Rimouski. Bacomo trades to Rimouski. Le choix de deuxième ronde numéro 36 de 2026. Second round pick number 36, 2026. Choix de troisième ronde numéro 46.
I'm so glad I didn't cover the trades in this, because like I wouldn't remember any of them. And credit to the league for keeping track of all that, but like, it's just kind of a waste of time, especially when they're going to trade it 97 times.
Et dernier choix de la première ronde for the 18th and last pick of the first round. Directeur de Bacomo. Oui. Merci. Alors, je m'appelle sur scène Jean-François Grégoire, Mario Turachet, Pierre Desjardins, Patrick Poch, Julie Dubé et Félix Lefrançois.
All right. Looks like the last selection is going to be made here.
We'll see where Bacomo goes with here. They don't have a selection in the second round. So there's literally someone they want here that they know won't be here after round 2. So they really
Who did they take? We took Nathan Boulanger, another goaltender. Not the goaltender I thought would be selected, but hey, whatever. It is what it is. Alrighty, well, that concludes the first round here. We were at 3 hours and 40 minutes in terms of the stream. The draft itself went about 2 hours 40 minutes, which for 18 picks is a bit long, but you could do worse, I guess. So yeah, that's the end of the draft there. So we can recap the order here. Boisvert went 1, McKinnon went 3. The winner of the draft for me was Shawinigan, getting both Julien Bergeron and P.A. Lemieux. That to me was clear and away the biggest highlight of tonight. You get Max Bryan went with a really good value there at 10. Norris at 13 was a solid selection. And that's the group there. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen here. We're going to go back to my pretty little mug. And if you guys have any questions for anything else, I'm going to stay on for a few more minutes, and then I'm probably going to end it at 10 o'clock. So feel free to put in your questions, and, I'll answer them before the end here. And, I'll be doing probably another stream here sometime next week. So we'll see. Mickey says French sounds like my English after Novocaine. That's good. Yeah. It does, doesn't it? That's funny. We're just plugging along here. Thanks again for those that have jumped in and joined. We're trying to grow this thing out, so keep putting the subscribers out there and keep putting the humor out there, Mick. That was good. Appreciate those that are new on here, and keep plugging along and playing away here, and appreciate those that have been on and stuck on and been along with the channel for the last little bit. I'm sorry I haven't posted more, just life's been busy, and things are going along that are all good things. Are the Trombley drafts related to just clarify who you're saying they're related to, and I'll answer. I think you think they're related. I'm assuming you're referring to Mario Tremblay. And I will answer that. I don't believe they are. I don't believe they are related to Mario Tremblay, if that's who you're trying to refer to. Or, to each other. No, as far as I know, no, they're not related to each other. But, every once in a while you get like a set of twins will get selected, which is really cool. I actually think there's a set of twins that might be drafted tomorrow in this second day of the draft. I want to say I don't remember their names right now, but I think there is a set. There definitely is an NHL draft. There's potentially 2 sets of twins that might go in a few weeks. But, All right, a couple more minutes here. I'll answer some questions. Otherwise, I might jump off here. But for those that have jumped in, first off, for the European people that have subscribed to my channel, I am very sorry that all these have been caught on recording. I'm going to try and do like an afternoon stream, so that way, if you haven't already been lost to the channel, you can be a little more included in it. I've been doing a lot of very North American friendly drafts lately, so apologize for that. But I'll try and do more as we're going along here with a little bit thought with the Europeans in mind. What was the surprise of the draft for you? Bergeron going as late as he did was a surprise for me. I thought for sure he was going to be 1 or 2. For him to go 5 was honestly the steal of the draft in my view. He'll make the National Hockey League eventually. He's a really good player. That would be my first one. And then the goaltenders, having 2 of them go in the first was kind of surprising. So that was kind of shocking as well. So I think I'm going to end it here, peeps. been on for 3 hours and 45 minutes, so I might do a stream next week. I'll post it on here if I am. But for those that stuck along, appreciate you. Thanks so much. Have a good one, and we'll talk soon. You'll see more clips coming up in the next few weeks as well. Until then, arrivederci.